I'm not demanding, I'm asking nicely. As a kind civilian that also knows how to manipulate cops.
This is 22-year-old Russell Jones. Just hours prior to the filming of this interrogation footage, he was arrested for helping a 15-year-old girl execute the brutal murder of her father.
Let's set our clock, shall we?
In approximately 3 seconds, you will witness an extreme shift in his demeanor.
You're listening in my conversations, aren't you? Oh. So, we can do this the nice way, or we can do it the hard way, and I can release my bipolar. Let's make it easy. One, finish for the food. Two, I see Ellie and Gavin, because they are both under my protection. Three, before you release Ellie to her parents, or parent, do a background check as well as a DNA test, as well as, well, not DNA, a drug test. And if you find out that her parent, her mom, is in fact doing drugs, you are to release her to me. Tell him to release Gavin. And Ellie, thank you. And I know I'm being recorded. You can keep that on there. Unless you're a nice doctor, I take it back. But if you're one of those two-timing, donut-eating piece of crap that don't like rules, a high school bully with a badge, I'm sorry, buddy, but I eat high school bullies for breakfast. So, you want the whole story? Make a deal, or I let out my bipolar. Your choice.
The following footage contains never-before-seen personal accounts of the suspects involved in this crime.
Oh, that sounds big. Yep, I pick you.
Mark Healing. Good address.
Is this where you talk to everyone you just met?
Pretty much.
He's kind of cute. Yeah, it kind of is. Be careful with him.
Interviews, we've obtained rare insight into the minds of 3 criminals who display behavior that is among the most disturbing we've seen yet.
I can still twist your little mind.
Aaron Fryer's murder was reportedly one of the most gruesome homicides Medford police had seen. The investigative team assigned to the case knew there was significant cause for concern just from viewing the crime scene alone. Aaron's 2 youngest daughters, Sierra and Olivia, walked out of their bedroom the morning of October 2nd, 2017, to find the horrifying evidence of the crime. But their father was nowhere to be found. The 2, who were not yet in high school, called their father's girlfriend for help, and it was not long before the police were involved. Only a few hours later, investigators and detained 3 young individuals, walking roadside a short distance from Aaron's abandoned Silver Mercury Marquis. His eldest daughter, 15-year-old Ellen Rose Fryer, was part of the trio. Her 19-year-old boyfriend, Gavin Curtis McFarlane, and his longtime friend, 22-year-old Russell Pierce Jones, accompanied her.
What's your first name?
Mike.
Okay. Mike what?
Smith.
Mike Smith? Okay.
Like, that sounds like one of those weird names.
Mike Smith does sound like a very common.
Sure it's not Russell? Well, that is one of the names that have.
Okay. I haven't pat him down or anything.
I don't really have any weapons or anything.
Okay, let me see. Well, a whole lot easier, all right?
Yeah.
Just go ahead and stand here so I can see real quick.
I probably would be really stupid saying this,
Uh-huh.
but did you happen to notice my wrist at all?
Your wrists? What about it?
Well,
Take one
the
well,
thing is
good.
that I can dislocate my wrist.
Okay, don't do that though, please.
Okay. You seem like a nice one.
I appreciate
I
it.
won't make it hard on you.
All right.
I only make it hard on the back. I actually started my own protection business.
Did you?
Yeah.
What kind of protection?
I know it's kind of risky, but I work with people 20 and younger.
Okay, so you're gonna protect like runaways? Yeah. So you provide protection for runaways and get them like a place to live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ellen was a sophomore student at South Medford High School, Medford, Oregon, and Gavin was a previous student who had dropped out a quarter before his graduation. Ellen would tell police that she met Gavin walking through South's hallways. According to Ellen, she reached out via Facebook Messenger and started a conversation that would evolve into a forbidden romance. She, only 15, was underage, and Gavin, 19, was her lover. Friends and family were appalled, but no one as much as Ellen's father. Aaron, in addition to Ellen's mother, Maggie, immediately set clear boundaries. She was no longer allowed to see Gavin. Characteristic to many teenagers who do not get their way, Ellen rebelled. She snuck out and lied to see him, secretly maintaining their bond. It was not long before Ellen's lies caught up to her, and Aaron discovered that, instead of staying the night at a friend's as she'd been claiming, she was sleeping over at Gavin's. Aaron, furious, stormed over to Gavin's house, pounded on his door, and threatened him, warning him not to come near his daughter again, or else. It was following this incident that the couple, in addition to Russell, who claimed to own a protection business, developed an insidious plan that reached far beyond sneaking out or running away, as is typical of many teenagers. They began to conspire to murder Ellen's father, who Ellen alleged had abused her. Although they initially intended to execute their plan after the new year, when Ellen would turn 16, Ellen began to claim the abuse was growing worse.
And I was not happy with the text. And that's the one that talked about the abuse? Yeah, okay.
And further, that she was pregnant with Gavin's child. This spurred a sense of urgency that drove them to act sooner rather than later. On the Saturday preceding the crime, when Ellen was absent attending a high school band event, Gavin and Russell attempted to break into her house through her bedroom window with murder in mind, messaging Ellen all the while. They quickly found that Aaron's girlfriend was asleep in the room and ran off. Although the attempt drew attention and concern, the police were not involved at that point. Aaron would pick his daughter up from the band event, take her and her siblings Halloween shopping, and treat them to Burger King the next day, and return to their home to watch a Sunday night movie. The events that followed the next morning were a tragic contrast to this seemingly wholesome day of family events. Gavin and Russell again arrived outside of Ellen's bedroom window in the early hours of that Monday morning. Ellen prompted Gavin to enter, and he obliged, while Russell remained outside in her yard. Over a period of an hour or so, Gavin and Ellen whimsically discussed their future, full of marriage and a lifelong love. But this was only to pass time. They were waiting for Aaron, who rested on the living room couch to fall asleep. Eventually, they heard snoring, and Gavin began to make his way to the living room. His first attempt failed when he accidentally kicked a trash can. It was still dark. Aaron woke up. Gavin retreated to the bedroom, and Ellen pretended that she had to use the restroom. Oblivious to his impending fate, Aaron purportedly said to Ellen, "Stop scaring me with all these people breaking in lately." When the two heard his snoring once more, Ellen handed Gavin an aluminum baseball bat, something Aaron had kept close by for protection, and told Gavin, "Take him out." After Gavin was finished, he sent Ellen a message informing her that it was done. Russell, who had stood outside with a machete for backup, entered the home at that point to assist with transporting Aaron's body. Russell reported that he was shocked and that he immediately retreated to the bathroom, sickened by the scene of the crime. Aaron's face, as shared by Russell, was scary. Due to the nature of Aaron's fatal injuries, Gavin wrapped a towel around Aaron's head and a blanket around his body. Russell, holding the blanket at Aaron's feet, and Gavin, holding it at his head, carried his body out to Aaron's own car and hoisted him into his trunk. Ellen was the last to re-enter her home. She stole money out of her recently murdered father's wallet, said goodbye to her sisters, who later told police they heard their father say a bad word when they were just waking up for school, and retrieved her dog before leaving. The trio proceeded to drive to Walmart while Aaron's body remained in the trunk. Ellen used the money she had stolen to buy junk food and hair dye. Before leaving, they walked into an SSI building so that Russell, who was on disability for reasons we'll learn later, could retrieve money with Gavin serving as his rep payee. The following eerie footage captures these moments. They dumped Aaron's body off an embankment along the side of a road. Also off the embankment alongside the road, they threw various incriminating pieces of trash and clothing articles. They ditched Aaron's car and walked away with plans of hiding low in an abandoned house and eventually retreating to California.
He dropped his body off on the side of like a pretty well-known road, and like some lady was like walking her dog and then found his body.
We interviewed dozens of friends and family who knew these suspects, and we found that almost all of them shared the same sentiment.
I spent like the whole year with her in band doing competitions and whatever. Someone pulled me aside, was like, "Did you hear what happened with Ellie Fryer?" And I was like, "No, I haven't heard anything." And literally a week or two previously, I had spoken to her and been around her.
A shock. It was a shock.
It was a little bit shattering. It was a murder and a really kind of mysterious and gruesome one, and I don't think anybody was expecting that.
All signs aside, no one expected that this would happen.
Think about this. Your daughter's 15, 16, and she's with a grown-ass man doing drugs. I would tell them never talk to my daughter again. And it's like some Romeo and Juliet type. You know what I mean? They're not supposed to be together, but they want to be together.
Romeo and Juliet law is going to be applied there because of the 3-year age difference.
What is the Romeo and Juliet law?
So do something drastic, you know. And unfortunately, it was taking Aaron's life in such a messed up way.
Graham Commercial is built for mobile business owners ready for the next. Featuring all the next innovations now. Are you ready for the next?
They found like actual evidence of them planning to kill both Ellie's father and the other guy whose name I can't remember, his dad as well.
Who's your father? What's so bad about him?
His past, as well as my past, growing up with him over 22 years.
I know at the very least, Gavin and Ellie were present when one or both of them beat Ellie's father to death with a baseball bat. They, then took his car with his body, dumped him not even that far away, I don't think, in a ditch. Were caught like not that long after in the car, I think, which is crazy. Medford police at least say it's one of the goriest scenes they've ever seen.
All factors involving these specific 3 individuals culminated with a deadly storm that ultimately led to Aaron's traumatic murder. This is the beginning of an end for Ellen Fryer. She sits stiffly in an uncushioned chair. The walls are bare and narrowly enclosing. Experts designed this room to spur feelings of discomfort, isolation, and unfamiliarity. The interrogation has already begun. Throughout the following interrogations, we will analyze all forms of communication, forensic linguistics, and the complex relationship between suspects' criminal behavior and unique underlying psychology. Only hours previously, Ellen stood outside her home while Gavin murdered her father. After she wrings her hands and cracks her fingers one by one, she stares stoically at the camera. Her behavior is markedly inconsistent with the nature of her recent experiences. An important aspect of reading body language is observing individuals' baseline nonverbal cues, followed by clusters of nonverbal cues, which can occur consecutively or simultaneously. Comparing these in the framework of individual circumstances, including environment, is an additional critical consideration. Upon contemplating Ellen's nonverbal language, also note her paralanguage, or the language that she conveys through vocal tone, pitch, prosody, volume, etc. They may assist law enforcement in building criminal profiles, determining suspects' motivations, or even detecting deception. Ellen shows little to no arousal physiologically, behaviorally, or emotionally. Mark this as our first significant behavioral observation.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing, is that if you met Ellie, she doesn't seem like the type of person that would hurt somebody. She really was a sweet and soft individual. I think that's what was so shady about it, was that it didn't really make sense to me that someone like Ellie would do that. Didn't seem in her character at all.
She's really sweet. She, was a really great person. So I was like, okay, I can be friends with this person.
She just seemed like a normal 15-year-old girl.
Many classmates knew Ellen as the girl who always raised her hand in class. She was accounted as intelligent, polite, and kind. But something that few could later explain lied dormant in Ellen, hiding amidst high school band trips, homecoming dances, and AP classes. Here, that something sits patiently and composed, waiting for an investigator in an empty interrogation room. The The following interrogations have been analyzed by a qualified team, including 2 licensed attorneys, one being a former criminal prosecutor and a psychologist trainee.
Hi. Hello. Are you Ellie? No. What's your name? I have the right to remain silent. Okay, you do have the right to remain silent.
The investigative team on this case may have selected this specific investigator, Detective Stephanie Smith, to conduct Ellen's interrogation for tactical reasons. Police psychology experts outline that investigators with traits similar to suspects are more likely to succeed in building rapport and facilitating open, honest communication. This concept applies to the broader field of psychology as well. It may be used as a vehicle of manipulation to appear more likable, otherwise termed the liking similarity effect. Ellen is more likely to respond positively to a female who speaks softly than a male who speaks gruffly. Ellen immediately displays a high level of resistance. As the interrogation unfolds, Detective Smith will navigate each obstacle to open communication that Ellen throws her way.
Is that what you're choosing to do? Yes. Okay. I at least need to know your name now. You don't want to tell me your name? Wayne. Wayne?
Mark Line is our second notable behavior observation and display of resistance. Ellen's first word is a lie, and she lies about her name. Lying is a common exploitive tool. Compulsive lying or pathological lying is characterized by lying about subjects' surrounding identity as a means of control.
Okay, Wayne, well, if you choose that you want to talk, I'm around, okay? I would like to know why I'm in touch and why I'm between. I have the right to know. Okay.
Ellen.
Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Maybe sunshine, maybe rain.
Ellen is angry. This reflects in her expression, which is a significant contrast between her flat disposition minutes previously. Her eyebrows are raised unusually high, and she holds them there as she asks the investigator with a childlike voice in an indignant, defiant tone why she is being detained.
Why am I being detained?
Her eye contact is unfaltering. Advanced situational awareness training would identify this behavioral cluster as indicating a need for dominance.
So we got a call of concern at your house today. Well, first I'm going to tell you all your rights. Okay. I'm going to tell you all your rights. Okay. And then I'm going to explain to you what's going on. And if you choose to talk after that, that's completely up to you.
This is a lesser-known rapport-building tactic that functions by reminding suspects they have some level of autonomy. Ellen appears to grow more receptive.
Okay. Okay. You have the right to remain silent. So you said you want to remain silent. But I would like to know why I'm detained. Okay. So we got a call of concern at your house today. And your little sisters are pretty scared about what happened there. And so what we're doing is trying to figure out what happened. And the police went to your house, and we're also a little bit worried about what's going on over there.
Detective Smith is vague that law enforcement is worried about what is going on over there, Ellen's house. At this point, she's trying to build rapport. This is a soft and indirect approach. Detective Smith wants Ellen to fill in the gaps.
I haven't been there all night. Well, there are things that would indicate otherwise.
I gave you guys what you wanted. Normally, it would take about 24 hours to get missing persons report if there wasn't evidence of blood. Then, if the person's missing for a total of 48 hours, that's 48-hour mystery done. Then you do your little search posse. By then, Gavin, me, and her would be in California.
And I'd like to talk to you about that, but with your wishing to remain silent, it's really difficult to kind of get to the bottom of all of that. Then let's talk. Okay. So what I want to do is make sure you understand what I told you about what your rights are, because that's super important, okay? So can you go through those one more time? Yes. Okay. So you have a right to remain silent. What does that mean to you?
Detective Smith reiterates the Miranda rights and asks Ellen to explain what each right means to make sure there is understanding. States often require this if suspects are 15 years of age or younger.
So this morning, your little sisters went over to your mom's house and told your mom about something that worried them that they saw in your house. Okay. Okay. And what that was a large amount of blood. And they described a few things that you had been doing at the house. Kind of the way you said goodbye, and that worried them because they weren't sure if they were going to see you again and they love you. And that really worried them a lot about where you were going and why you were leaving so quick, because they care about you and they love you.
She frames the story from Ellen's sister's perspective, describing how scared they were to appeal to Ellen's humanity, but Ellen seems relatively unaffected.
You know, do you love your sisters?
Yes.
And you care about kind of how they feel about you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody would. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of that's what we need to hash out. You know, what did your sisters see? Why are they worried?
What did they see?
That's what I'm going to ask you.
To be honest, I don't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen becomes abruptly animated. She raises her eyebrows sharply, and they linger there. Something about the expression seems off. It doesn't reach the rest of her face, indicating chirality, or match her verbal expression. This abnormal behavior further supports that Ellen struggles with issues of affect or apathy. Ellen's expression, whatever it is, does not appear normal. Ellen's ex-best friend, Gillian McFeeters, commented on Ellen's mental health to investigators, stating that Ellen had displayed signs of bipolar disorder.
Switch would go off sometimes, and I mean, it was not very long. It was just kind of a and then I was gone. But
This is a critical piece of information confirmed by someone who knew Ellen best. Ellen's mood fluctuations indicate that she suffers from heightened emotional reactivity and sensitivity in response to triggering stimuli. This contrasts with mood swings typical of bipolar disorder, which are not as transient.
You said that there was a large amount of blood. Is everybody okay?
That's what we're trying to figure out. Yeah. Do you go to school?
No.
No. What's the last grade you completed?
12.
You completed 12th grade?
Detective Smith begins to ask background questions to establish Ellen's behavioral baseline, or the behavior she normally displays when answering fact-based questions. Later in the interrogation, when she poses questions relevant to the crime, she will look for behaviors that diverge from Ellen's behavioral baseline when Ellen responds. We will expand on the formal technique of this concept later in the interrogations.
How old are you?
18.
Okay. All right. Where did you go to school?
South Medford High School.
When did you graduate?
Last year. Class of 2017. This year. Sorry. Class of 2017. I graduated with an honors diploma.
That's exciting.
As we know, Ellen is lying when she answers most of these questions. Because we know she's lying, we can see the way Ellen expresses herself non-verbally when she lies based on facts. 1. Ellen's tone drops and flattens, a notable deviation in her paralanguage.
Do you go to school?
No.
No. What's the last grade you completed?
12.
2. Her eyebrows raise. 3. This is a cluster of non-verbal indicators. Ellen looks up and to the right. She smiles, laughs as she answers, and then moves her hands apart.
When did you graduate?
Last year.
4. We can see another cluster when she corrects her lie with another lie. This time we can tell she's more flustered. She scrunches her face to the point that she closes her eyes. She false starts. We see her eyebrows drop dramatically. She rapidly shakes her head back and forth, and finally, she aggressively flicks her hair out of her face and tilts her head back. 5. Last, we see another eyebrow raise.
What kind of classes did you take?
AP.
AP what?
AP American Studies, AP Human Geography, AP Psychology, AP Biology.
Goodness.
Pretty much everything I could take.
Yeah. And I know you live with your sisters, because I know somebody else has talked with them today. I didn't talk to them. And who else do you live with?
Just them.
Ellen responds, just them, and she sounds more emotionally expressive. She may have a soft spot for her sisters. The investigator seems to think so, as she often includes them in her questioning.
Avocados? Oh, thank you. Oh, cucumbers.
And my mother.
Okay. Where do you live?
In the area. I don't know the exact address.
So you live with your sisters and your mom, and you graduated last year. Okay. And you were walking down the street, it sounds like, today?
Mm-hmm.
Who were you with?
I was with my friends.
Okay. And I wasn't there, so I really don't know.
Yeah.
Who are your friends?
The two males that have also been detained.
Okay. Who are they to you?
They're friends.
Okay. What are their names?
I'm not going to give their names.
Unless I'm there, she only trusts me as a lawyer.
Okay. So what have you been up to today?
I haven't been home, and now I'm really concerned about what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen puts up her defenses. In a setting outside of an interrogation, defensiveness naturally elicits a negative response from the listener. Detective Smith is trained to employ the resistance countering technique, reframing. In this instance, she utilizes reframing to refocus Ellen's attention on something more positive. Holding positivity assists with resetting the flow of conversation, prevents defensiveness from building, and increases efficient information gathering. This tactic draws from the field of positive psychology, which arose from the idea that reorienting focus and reframing perspectives away from negativity results in greater life equilibrium.
Where were you?
Out.
Like out where?
Just out and about. Couldn't sleep.
When Ellen lied about graduating from South Medford High School,
I graduated with an honors diploma.
she stated that she had graduated with an honors diploma, an identity lie. This is a necessary detail. In contrast, her responses here are short and vague.
Like out where?
Just out and about.
She's unable to provide any detail. An investigative team will analyze amounts of detail and specificity in the context of what suspects say. They might note that Ellen was overly specific when she provided detail when Detective Smith didn't prompt her to. Honors diploma. They might also know that Ellen was overly vague when the investigator prompted her to be specific. Her actions. Both warrant attention in an interrogative environment.
Where's the last place you slept?
At the house.
At your mom's house?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked to your mom. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
She's super worried about you. She's so worried about you.
Detective Smith shares that she knows Ellen is lying, but follows with an empathy statement. There is no perceptible response from Ellen, but it's clear Detective Smith is still trying to earn Ellen's trust and break the ice. This is an attempt to make an emotional connection, but Ellen holds steadfast, maintaining her resistance.
I would actually like to speak truth today. Okay? I think that your mom is, it's been a long time since I've seen a parent like your mom was today. She was on her knees on the ground, sobbing. Because that's how worried she is about you. So I do know that that's not where you spent last night. So where'd you spend last night?
I didn't sleep last night.
So where's the last place you slept?
My mother and my father's house.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've talked to your mom, and so I know that you hadn't been staying there.
Right, it's my father's weekend. I go back and forth though, because my father is a little bit abusive.
Okay.
Ellen mentioned her father's abusive behavior relatively out of context. Her parents shared joint custody, which explains why she went back and forth between their houses. Further, her response bared no relevance to the question. Consider that Ellen conspired to kill her father, and very recently encouraged and stood by as her boyfriend who murdered him, lifted his body into the trunk of her father's car, and threw it over an embankment. Her statement regarding her father's abusive behavior extends beyond a lack of remorse, resembling something more like revenge. When investigators spoke to Ellen's old friends, they shared that she had been consistently confiding in them about the abuse.
I know that he was kind of rough on her, and she said that he was like emotionally abusive and physically abusive, but I'm not sure how true that is.
What she would bring up is things weren't how, like they were not good at her household. She felt her dad wanted to kill her. He started getting abusive. He started mistreating her sisters and her.
When the Medford PD posted details surrounding the crime and suspects on their Facebook timeline, there was an outpouring of mourning and kind words for Aaron. Many comments portrayed Aaron as the opposite of abusive, stating, Aaron cared more about his girls than anything. Members of the Fryer family and the Medford community were shocked.
So what's the last house you left from?
It's my father's house.
Okay. And when did you leave there?
About noon.
Okay. And then where'd you go?
Just wherever I felt like going. I just went for a walk. And I didn't stop walking.
So today is Monday, and it is 11:30.
Okay, so I've been awake for almost 24 hours.
So you left at noon. What day?
Sunday.
Okay.
Yesterday.
And what was going on before you left the house?
Detective Smith is attempting to establish timelines, but this proves difficult due to Ellen's continued lying and evasion.
My father was very upset about something. I can't recall. He was very violent outbursts.
Okay.
My dog was hit by a car because he smashed a glass table onto my dog, and the gate was open, so my dog ran outside and got hit by a car.
Oh goodness, when did that happen?
A couple of weeks ago.
Okay. So what was going on yesterday to make you leave?
Just didn't really like the environment. I just didn't like the vibe.
Okay. So who was home when you left?
My sisters and my dad.
Okay.
Where's my dad now?
Ellen attempts to act as though she's concerned about her father, but she fails badly. Consider which behavioral cues indicate deception and post the timestamps in the comments.
I don't know. So you leave. What door did you leave out of?
The front door.
Okay. And did you tell anybody you were leaving?
No.
And then where'd you go?
Turn here, turn there. Kind of wandering around town.
Ellen describes walking and seeing the nearby market, though she says her memory is fuzzy.
My memory is pretty fuzzy now.
Is it?
And she claims she doesn't remember much else.
And then what else did you see?
Nature.
Mm-hmm.
Preceding interrogation, investigators may engage in an exercise termed perspective taking. They place themselves in the suspect's shoes. Suspects will often prepare themselves to answer questions that are central to the crime they committed. By viewing the situation from suspects' perspectives, investigators are more likely to determine what questions suspects might expect or not expect. Investigators will then begin the interrogation by asking anticipated questions to establish a behavioral baseline and follow by asking unanticipated questions. This allows investigators to make a comparison between baseline responses and responses that suspects provide when caught off guard.
Well, at some point you must have met up with some friends.
Oh, yeah. I ran into them.
Where were you when you saw them?
Can't remember.
So I feel a little bit kind of like we might just be like playing cat and mouse and going back and forth. Okay.
In addition to displaying high levels of resistance, Ellen pushes back at the investigator. She exhibits prolonged eye contact. This is a confrontational behavior indicating aggressiveness. She will continue to do this periodically throughout the interrogation.
I just made Morningstar Farms veggie chicken nuggets in under 2 minutes and got my kids to eat something good for a change. These are awesome! I'm kind of an incredible mom.
You care about me, right? No, I do. There's a lot about him that you don't know. Sisters have actually been already talked to by somebody, and they're pretty good on their time when they saw you because they were getting up and alarms were set and looking at tablets and things like that. Okay. And so, I just want to have an honest conversation with you. I think that your sisters are beyond scared, beyond worried. Okay? Like, for instance, the dog. Where's the dog?
Where is my dog?
What's his name? Squeakerbeak or something?
Sparklebeak.
Sparklebeak.
Where is he?
You tell me.
Where's my dog?
I don't know. Where is Sparklebeak?
I don't know.
Okay, well, for me to have an answer about where Sparklebeak is, I don't. Because you're actually the one that took Sparklebeak.
I took him for a walk around the block and then I dropped him back off.
Your Sparkle Beak is not anywhere to be found. Your sisters remember you taking. Your sisters actually remember you taking him this morning and walking out the door. The Sparkle Beak. I think only you know the answer to that.
No, I don't.
It would be nice to be able to at least let Sierra and Olivia know.
I don't know.
Okay. Do you have a boyfriend?
My parents made us break up.
Oh, they did? Tell me about that.
They just didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
Note that Detective Smith is skilled at asking very open-ended questions to entice Ellen to speak. Open-ended questions encourage narratives that are rich in detail and allow investigators to collect further information and insight related to the case.
How'd you meet him?
School.
At South? Okay. And so you've been out of school for a bit?
Mm-hmm.
So your parents didn't like him?
Yeah.
How come they didn't like him?
I don't know.
Well, you must have had some kind of conversation about why your parents don't like your boyfriend.
They're just like, we don't like this guy. Get rid of him.
So what did you do?
I ended it.
What was that boyfriend's name?
Gavin.
Justin.
What's his last name?
Can't remember. I wasn't dating him for very long. Maybe 2 weeks.
You don't know your boyfriend's 2 weeks last name?
No.
We could find him in the yearbook though.
Oh, okay.
Don't you think? Okay. You didn't have any other boyfriends?
No.
Every detail holds the potential to be significant. The nonverbal indicator that follows is very subtle, almost unnoticeable.
I've had a few, weak relationships that I don't really consider those to be real.
Everything is noteworthy when it comes to body language analysis. Note that Ellen displays asymmetrical eye blinking and has done so several times throughout the interrogation up to this point. As part of a standard neurological examination, practitioners document asymmetrical facial movement, including eye blinking, as well as out-of-the-ordinary ocular movement. Blinking is controlled by the nervous system, specifically through voluntary neural control in the autonomic nervous system. This could be a sign of a neurological, neuropsychological, or psychological issue, as well as medication or drug use. Overtiredness may also cause asymmetrical eye blinking, and Ellen has reportedly been awake for approximately 24 hours or more. Although overtiredness is a likely cause, we must also note that Ellen displays other abnormal eye movements at different points during the interrogation, as well as significantly and consistently odd behavior. We can only speculate what exactly this may be, but we do know there is a strong possibility that each time Ellen does this, she is experiencing some form of abnormal brain activity.
Tell me about the boyfriend you had that your dad thought was too old for you.
Oh yeah, that's another situation. And that's just flat out, I don't like this guy. You need to break up with him. Mm-hmm. And of course, I want my father's wishes for the person I'm seeing.
Who was the guy that was too old for you?
I won't give names.
So what was that circumstance though? Tell me about that.
My parents are very controlling.
Yeah.
My dad's very abusive.
In what way?
Verbally, emotionally. When I did something that he didn't like, he would grab me right here and he'd pin me against the wall.
And then what would happen?
And then my little sisters would freak out and then he'd stop.
So what was being said or what was being done or what happened to lead up to him putting his hand on you?
I honestly don't know. I'd like to know that myself.
Well, I don't have that answer because you were the one that was there.
Well, like I said, he was drunk, but he's done it sober as well.
But what words were being said?
Like, you. It's very emotionally damaging to hear your father tell you that.
And who all was there when that happened?
Just me. After school.
I thought you said your sisters were there.
Ellen shared only moments ago that her sisters asked her to stop.
So who was home when you left?
My sisters and my dad.
Okay.
Here she explains that she was alone when it happened. Investigators may ask the same questions repeatedly to look for the slightest deviation in suspect stories. particularly to those who display high levels of resistance, like Ellen does. Among the handful of Ellen's friends and acquaintances who spoke to the police and or accepted our invitation to interview, two mentioned that Ellen was not always honest.
And she came to school one day with a thing on her leg and said it was from her sister, so she said. But I don't know, because Ellie has kind of lied to me before, which did hurt.
Jillian McFeeder shared the story of an event that occurred closely preceding Aaron's murder with police. McFeeder stated she decided at that point that she could not forgive Ellen for what she'd done.
She was telling her father that she was at my house when she was actually at her boyfriend's house. So I got a call from Ellie that was very frantic saying, I need you to cover for me. So of course I'm thinking, okay, maybe something really bad is going on. So her dad calls me, and of course I cover for her, and then he finds out, so he ends up thinking that I was covering for her the entire time when I did not have a clue that she was lying. This is one time I thought maybe she's in a dangerous situation. Of course, I'm going to help her because she was my best friend and I trusted her, and that was the wrong decision.
Julian ended her friendship with Ellen after that night and explained to the investigator that she would never trust her ex-best friend again. She knew Ellen was going down a wrong path, and she refused to follow. Here, sitting opposite a trained investigator, Ellen does exactly what cost her Julian's friendship. She lies.
Yeah, sometimes we go over there by ourselves, and we just want to get away from the other two. Having two younger sisters is stressful. Everything's an argument.
The following questions are generic about whereabouts, the last time she saw her father, and some of her locations over the past 24 hours. Smith is establishing a timeline and frame of reference to compare it to what she knows about Ellen and the crime, and what she will learn from Russell's and Gavin's interrogations.
So you were at the park on the other side of the street from Dairy Queen and Blackbird, and then you saw your friend. And what were your friends doing?
Just hanging out, being goofballs.
Okay.
We know that Ellen and said friends were certainly not just hanging out, being goofballs. Ellen does not appear to be attached to what she says, seeming guiltless. She also comes off as equally removed from impending consequences. As an honors student with stellar grades, Ellen has demonstrated advanced cognitive ability. She would need to possess assets like strong critical thinking skills, working and long-term memory, and at least an average or above IQ to excel as she has. If Ellen is intellectually gifted, we have less of an explanation for why she consistently tells lies that she cannot keep up with. Her approach to evasion and resistance is persistent but not logical, let alone strong, and it brings up a question as to whether Ellen is in a normal, healthy state of mind at the time of this interrogation. A more sinister explanation, Ellen could be doing this intentionally, manipulating the investigator and setting the scene for an insanity defense.
And then what was the conversation?
Hey, what are you doing? Nothing much. What are you doing? Just walking around. You want to hang out? Sure. And we started walking.
And when do you think that was?
I'm not quite sure.
What kind of car does your dad drive?
Grand something?
What color is it?
Like gold or silver.
Okay. When's the last time you were in that car?
When we drove into the store.
Detective Smith continues to ask questions surrounding details of the crime. She has reasonable suspicion that Ellen was in that car only hours ago with her dead father in the trunk, and she's probing for behavioral discrepancies between answers Ellen provides here and answers Ellen provided earlier when responding to questions unrelated to the crime.
When's the last time you drove that car?
The last time I drove that car, when I parked the car at Walmart.
Okay. And that was, so today's Monday, and you said that was a couple days ago? What time of day?
We had to get something for dinner, so I'd say about 6 p.m.
And who all went to Walmart?
Me and my dad.
Okay. What'd you guys get?
Meat.
What kind? Like, what were you guys making?
Oh, I'm vegetarian, so I don't really care.
By the way, did you know sausages are actually the leftover pig guts? And intestines, and the heart, and the liver, pork chops, man. They're used.
Okay. When was the last time you saw your dad?
Yesterday. I'm too tired to keep talking. I'm really sorry.
You want to take a little break? Okay. Do you want some water or anything?
No, thank you.
You just want to sit here for a few minutes?
I'd like a story time.
Okay. Well, you just sit tight for a few minutes and we'll try to figure that out, okay? Okay.
It may be difficult to imagine that this mild-mannered 15-year-old girl conspired to kill her father. She has denied knowledge and culpability and claimed abuse. She has likewise lied consistently throughout the interrogation. Many involved in this case seem to want an answer to a question they are hesitant to ask. Was Ellen truly a victim of abuse, or is she lying? We spoke to multiple sources who questioned why Ellen planned and encouraged the murder of her father, when other options of escape from the alleged abuse were available to her. They argued that she could have gone to the police, her doctor, the fire station, or other local sources of support. They asked why she'd not chosen to run away. They admitted that they simply couldn't understand what had happened. It's relevant to note that cases of patricide are extremely rare. The circumstances of Aaron's tragic murder were less than 0.002% likely to happen. This innocent, sweet-sounding 15-year-old girl is not a typical young teenager. Her actions were so unusual that even the FBI lacks the words to describe them. Ultimately, though, Ellen didn't swing the baseball bat that killed her father.
Gavin was kind of one of those kids that kind of everybody knew, at least, because he had kind of a very specific outward kind of image that I think he was trying to display, very dark, very kind of shady, Overall, he really was relatively nice, but just kind of a weird kid. Gavin was a normal guy. It was really cool. He's always outgoing. He was an open person. He was like, he had friends, but he wasn't like popular, if that makes sense. It just makes sense that he would do something like that. I mean, he makes threats to kill people. He obviously has the outward image of somebody who, it seemed like he was playing an imitation game. It's like the classic, trench coat mafia at your school. Like, it seemed like he wanted to be one of the Columbine shooters.
Many of those who knew Gavin held mixed perceptions of him. From multiple accounts, he seemed to be as much of a friend as he was an enemy, as normal as he was eccentric, and as outgoing as he was reserved. Some said that they noticed him changing over the couple of years leading up to Aaron's murder. Others said that he had always been the way he was. Regardless of whether pre-murder impressions of Gavin were positive or negative, most who responded to our request to interview didn't believe that he could have done what he did.
He was never like that, man. No one would have ever guessed that he would have been a murderer, In social environments, he can be cool. If you're just with him, he'll start saying that makes you think like, oh, you shouldn't say that. Don't say it to anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, keep on with yourself.
Gavin's behavior and responses to investigators, framed within the context of what family and old friends and acquaintances have said, serve as an opportunity for a unique insight into a crime that no one anticipated. This interrogation occurred less than a day after Gavin bludgeoned Aaron to death, but shortly after he sits, he lightheartedly, mechanically asks,
How's your morning been so far? Busy, huh?
Mark this heavy contrast as our first behavioral observation of Gavin. He displays no visible signs of remorse. Just as we observed in Ellen, Gavin appears unfazed by the seriousness of his past actions and present situation. Whereas Ellen initially presented as emotionally flat, Gavin teeters on the edge of jovial. This is the start of what is known as the Reed technique. The first step in such technique is isolation, which they've done for an extended period. The second step deployed here is called maximization. The Reed technique recommends 5 minutes of isolation, but Gavin has been isolated for hours, with the exception of an officer keeping a close watch on him. Following isolation and maximization, the Reed method incorporates 3 primary categories: fact analysis, investigative interview, and interrogation. As part of the fact analysis step, investigators gather the facts involved in the case and analyze them to search for motive, potential to commit the crime, and likelihood to commit the crime. Law enforcement will use both dependent and independent corroborating evidence in this stage. During this stage, investigators develop a full understanding of the crime scene and other relevant aspects of the crime.
Me and Jim have spent about 4 hours with, you probably know this Mike.
Yeah. Wow.
And Detective Stephanie Smith has spent about the same amount of time with Ellie. And I just want to throw some things at you. So all I want you to do right now is just listen to me and let you know what's going on. Okay?
Step 1. Positive confrontation. At this point, the investigators have acquired enough evidence to reasonably suspect that Gavin committed the crime. As part of positive confrontation, the primary investigator lays it all out on the table, objectively stating the facts. He does this in an intentionally soft, soothing voice to appear non-threatening and to give Gavin a false sense of security.
Mike took us out to East Antelope and pointed out the tar, and we have people out there right now recovering Ellie's dad. He's deceased. Ellie's dad was basically wrapped up in a blanket and a tarp and taken out and dumped.
The investigator opts to use words that are non-accusatory while presenting the evidence. He does not say, "You took his body and dumped it." He says, "His body was taken out and dumped." The latter is passive voice as opposed to active. Controlling suspects' levels of resistance and defensiveness is critical to the success of an interrogation.
We don't know if this is something that's been planned out a long time ahead, or if this is just like last night, you guys decided to go over there and get Ellie the hell out of a bad situation.
The investigator implements step 2, theme development here. He frames the crime from a perspective that fulfills Gavin's moral justifications. This is the investigator's moral theme. If Gavin murdered Aaron, he did it to protect Ellen. This will occur and build as the interrogation progresses. The investigators pre-planned this, likely structuring it around information gleaned from other sources like
Gavin was only protecting Ellie.
We will call the investigators' theme development the hero theme.
This isn't a matter of when it happened, where it happened, who was involved. It's more a matter of why this happened and what was going on through all of you guys' minds at the time. We don't take sides in these kind of cases. We're basically truth seekers. We're here to seek the truth as to what happened. And Ellie has been 100% cooperative with us.
Ellie? No. What's your name? I have a training time.
And then how long have you known Ellie?
Ellie's been almost a year now, I'd say.
Okay, boyfriend, girlfriend?
Only about 6 months.
There's some information that Ellie might be pregnant. Has she told you that? Okay.
Gavin confirms that he was both dating and sleeping with Ellen. That is, he confirms that he was both dating and sleeping with a minor. It took a handful of seconds for this investigator to prompt Gavin to admit to a statutory offense.
He would like hang around middle school. When he turned 18 is when everybody found out that he was with like a 15-year-old. People were automatically like, "Okay, bro, like that's not cool." And a lot of people stopped talking to him. And he wanted her at any cost. No one else can have her.
Because Gavin shows little resistance and doesn't reject or deny the investigator's accusations, the investigator can bypass steps 3 and 4 of the Reed interrogation technique, handling denials and overcoming objections. Instead, he jumps straight into step 5 of the Reed technique, procurement and retention of suspect's attention. The investigator must guide Gavin's attention away from the potential repercussions of the crime and back to the main theme. He does this through minimization or through rationalizing that the crime was not that serious of an offense.
You guys are only, what, 3-4 years apart? A little over 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the investigator's redirection here, Gavin is back in the hero mindset. From Gavin's perspective, investigators are only concerned about Aaron's abuse of his daughter, not his murder, and Gavin has exactly the information they need.
Her dad's an alcoholic, and he goes and she said that he's being her and locked her in the bathroom before, so.
Has she ever told you that anything in regards to?
That was just recently, that's what sent
into the hero theme. The next
I didn't think I had time for a master's, but with WGU, I can move to an accredited business degree.
Next steps are crucial to the success of the interrogation. They almost have a full confession, but sticking true to the Reed method, the investigator immediately continues as though Gavin merely commented on the state of the weather. The hero approach to theme development was Gavin's Achilles heel, his greatest weakness. His crime was gruesome and ruthless, but he seemed to desire to be a hero as much as he desired to be a villain. Among the dozens of friends and acquaintances we interviewed, only one confirmed a possible explanation as to why this thing worked so well for investigators.
He was very protective of the people he cared about. Actually, how we met, I was bad-mouthing a couple people, not realizing that he was connected to those people. They had pissed me off, and for whatever reason, I just wanted to talk, and he gave me a black eye.
Although Jacob laughed it off, the example he gave supports the theory that Gavin possesses a low anger threshold, meaning he's anger-prone. Some might argue that Gavin's actions display extreme loyalty, whereas others might protest that they serve as outlets for his aggression.
When did she tell you about that, and what did she tell you?
That was yesterday.
What's your understanding of what he did to her?
He basically laid next to her naked and started.
And then so you mentioned that kind of set you off, upset you. Obviously, it would upset me too.
This is an empathy statement, something that encourages reciprocity. Establishing reciprocity, in this case emotional reciprocity, in an interrogative setting is a form of persuasion. If the investigator provides a small favor, the suspect may feel a need to return it, thereby lowering resistance. The empathy statement also creates an opportunity for Gavin to elaborate on what he meant when he said he lost it. But the investigator quickly moves on once Gavin responds. Linguistic analysis involves the interpretation of words and phrases in context. So is a transitional expression. The simple linguistic interpretation here is that Gavin wants to move on from this topic of conversation. The investigator intuits this and immediately resumes asking questions along the lines of the hero theme.
And then, so what was the plan going over to Ellie's last night? Was it to pick up her belongings and get her out of that situation?
Pick her up some stuff and get her out of there, yeah.
Okay.
He told me to get a gunpoint before.
He what?
He threatened my life and held me a gunpoint before.
Aaron has over at his house?
Mm-hmm. And then there was one time he came over banging on my door because he was all mad. I actually called you guys for that because I was like, I didn't want to go out the door without the window to see anything because I didn't know if he had a gun or not. But
how long ago was that that you called us?
I think it was a month ago.
And then when was the situation where he pointed a gun at you? What was that? Where did that happen and how long ago was that?
Gavin describes his interactions with Aaron as being characterized by fear. He claims that Aaron threatened him more than once. Beyond Gavin's reports of Aaron's threatening behavior, Ellen claimed to him that Aaron abused her. The fear response is an evolutionary physiological survival mechanism that's triggered in reaction to perceived impending harm. It's otherwise termed the fight or flight response, which includes the following reactions: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. We'll discuss the fight or flight response concerning Gavin as the interrogations progress.
So I went over to his house one time. This was where I knew that he didn't like me or whatever. And I came over and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And then I'm like, "Well, here to say hi to Ellie." She said that I would come over. And he's like, "No." So he grabs a gun and was like, "Get out of here. I'm giving you 20 seconds."
Did Ellen witness that?
No. I don't know what caused him to not like me.
Okay.
So he was really chillaxed. I mean, he was, of course, being like a protective dad. He said, "Oh, I'll take care of my daughter." And I was like, "Yeah, I understand."
Did he drink a lot?
So, yes, he is an alcoholic.
If Aaron suffered from alcoholism, Ellen could have been in a considerably unstable environment. Children of individuals who struggle with alcoholism are more likely to develop mental illness. Moreover, and in reference to Ellen's claims, greater consumption of alcohol relates to greater rates of inappropriate, unwanted advances.
So you get this text yesterday, last night, and when you got over there, what time of the morning do you think it is now that you guys arrived?
It was 2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning? Mm-hmm. Is when you guys get there? Okay.
Gavin must be in his hero mindset, believing that the investigators view his crime as morally justifiable. Once Gavin is primed to be more receptive, open, and honest, the primary investigator dives into information gathering. Note that the second investigator is present to ensure proper execution of step 9 of the re-interrogation technique, converting an oral confession into a written confession. A third party witnesses and writes down suspects' confessions.
Where is she at when you first see her?
She's poking her head out the window, being like, "Hey, come on in."
Out of her bedroom window? Okay. So what do you and RJ do at that point?
At that point, RJ was like, "Okay," and then um gas bubble or something. I go in the window, RJ waits outside.
He waits outside, and then do the bags start getting passed out the window?
Yeah.
How many bags do you think she has ready to go at that point when you get there?
Gavin appears calm and collected, unaffected by his present circumstances. However, as the investigator probes more deeply into the specifics of that night, Gavin crosses his arms tightly over his chest. This is a self-pacifying behavior, a self-hug meant to reduce stress and regulate emotions.
When we got there, she had 4 bags. She had a guitar,
The pellet rifle.
the pellet rifle, yeah. And then she had like a makeup kit and then another thing in it.
So now it's you and Ellie in the bedroom, and you mentioned that Dad heard you. Did Dad hear you guys in there? Or did...
Well, he got up and then Ellie was like, "Oh, I'll just go out and act like I'm going to the bathroom or whatever." Because, I mean, I didn't want this guy to come and start beating the crap out of me.
So how did the conversation go between Ellie and her dad at that point when she's saying, "I got up and went to go pee"?
And he's like, "All right, well, stop scaring me with all the people trying to break in lately." And I was like, wait, because that was the first night we had gone. I mean, we went over there last night, but I mean, we didn't go for it because her dad's girlfriend was there.
Okay.
Saturday night.
So you'd go over Saturday night to try to get her out of there.
Yeah. I know I'm in serious trouble, aren't I?
Well, we need to figure out what happened. And, you know, there's a lot of things in play here. But so now you've been there about 20 minutes before Ellie interacts with her dad.
His tone is even, and his responses are level, but when Gavin removes his jacket, we can reasonably assume that he is more stressed than he's letting on. Actions like tugging at a shirt collar or removing clothing, as Gavin does here, may be referred to as ventilating behaviors. When circumstances are heating up, humans may lean on these behaviors to cool down.
And I know this is going to be a little bit difficult to talk about, Gavin, but you've got to be 100% honest and truthful with this. What happens next?
So then Ellie got out and they waited in the car. And then
Ellie went to the car?
Yeah.
Did she go out the window or the front door?
She went out the window.
Okay.
As Gavin answers, he rubs his nose. While nose touching under high-stress circumstances does not necessarily indicate deception, it does indicate heightened stress. It appears that Gavin's feelings of discomfort are building.
And when you said they waited in the car, are you talking about RJ and her?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that the car is seen on video on a surveillance camera at a neighbor's house at about 5:50 in the morning. If you're getting into the bedroom at about 2:30, you're talking about 3 hours until you guys leave. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. That entire 3-hour time, what's going on inside the bedroom? I mean, what's the purpose of waiting so long?
We tried to wait for him to fall asleep again so that we could get out.
Okay.
And then he starts to wake up, and I just acted on instinct, and I don't know what I was doing.
We know that Gavin was aware of what he was doing, but it appears that he displays little to no signs of discomfort or deception in this moment.
And then, like, I just kept hitting him until he stopped, and I heard, like, gurgling, and I was like, what's going on? I'm really sorry.
Next, Gavin does something unexpected.
I know you are. I know this is difficult. And that's what we're...
Minute Rice Cups are full of light, fluffy, delicious rice. Ready in 60 seconds.
There's a highway. Stretches across the 9
let me ask you this, Gavin, were you upset because of everything that Ellie had told you? Okay.
I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to kill him.
Right, but why not at 4:30 when you know she has the keys, why not just everybody go out the window and leave?
Ellie hates her parents. She doesn't want to go back there again. She wanted him dead. I didn't want to kill him. I was like, I'm not going to kill him. She was all like, no, I don't want him around it. I don't want him around my sisters anymore. So sorry. We'll go to prison for murder, aren't we?
Well, that's what we need to figure out, Joe. We need to figure out what your intent was, and it's important to know.
I'll try and protect Ellie. Okay. We'll try it.
So do you think that Ellie could have influenced Gavin?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would never see my nephew acting in that behavior as brutally killing somebody. From my point of view and everybody else, my family, we all agree that Ellie was 100% at fault.
It was not long before Gavin admitted to his role in executing Aaron's murder. As opposed to Ellen, he put up little to no resistance, immediately acknowledging that the events that morning had transgressed and that he had solely swung the bat that killed Aaron. Russell would prove even less resistant, uninhibitedly spilling nearly all details involved in the crime. Just as Gavin stated he was doing, Russell insisted that he was protecting Ellen. What we are about to observe is among the most bizarre behavior we have seen in an interrogation up to this point.
Is that a camera? I'd rather not have a camera hanging. You talked to cut the board, but I think they're required to. So it's not that like I could find a cam all day. Well, yeah, but see, we're recorded wherever we go. You know that, even the police happen. Seems like it. Probably, yeah. Yeah, see, man. Oh, yeah, sit down. Well, you can sit down. Yeah, but I'm not allowed to sit unless you're sitting. That's not what I said. No.
Russell tries to show dominance and control by stating he doesn't want to be recorded, and then after the officer tells him he can sit down, he replies, "You can sit down." This immediately shows he's trying to display his lack of fear of authority. Of the three who participated in the crime earlier that morning, Russell appears to be the least impacted. While Gavin's behavior evolved from casually polite to distraught, and Ellen's from flat to angry, Russell's is steadily lighthearted and upbeat. His conduct is eccentric, driven by a variety of psychological factors that will break down as this interrogation progresses.
My mom kind of took him under her wing, trying to help him. He mentioned that he's autistic, and so he has trouble finding work. And it wasn't too long before that my youngest son was diagnosed with autism. So that was our instant connection. He did a lot of family things with us. He spent Easter with us, Sunday dinners with us. So we're pretty close. I mean, he calls me his sister. He calls my mom.
Yeah, that sounds good, though. It's kind of a nice place. And it's probably some so that people get loud for themselves. Because sometimes we bring drunks here from driving. Drunks are the worst. Yeah. Not a big fan of them. Like, I protect people, like I said.
Russell persistently claims that he owns a protection business. He unshakingly asserts this, and the police don't at any point question it. When individuals are convinced of something untrue despite all evidence indicating otherwise for an extended period, they're said to hold a delusion. Oftentimes, delusions are bizarre, meaning they're highly improbable or not set in reality. E.g., an individual consistently believes that the neighbor reads minds. Other times, delusions are non-bizarre, involving beliefs that are within the realm of possibility, e.g., consistently believing one is being followed. Russell's protection business could be a delusion. While outside of the norm, it could nonetheless be true, qualifying as non-bizarre. We would require additional information, such as input from friends and those Russell claims to protect, to determine this.
But I try not to resort to violence. Good. I always try and talk to the person. Yeah, her father is a drunk, compared to what she's told me. And I only talked to him over the phone probably once or twice. He's really not that good of a father. Really? Yeah. Her father? Yeah. Who is her father's name? All I know him as, is
again, I know like Aaron Martinez, Aaron, her father, but I don't know his last name. And I know Aaron Novi. So, okay.
Russell starts rambling, and the investigator allows him to do this. This is a strategy to keep the accused talking so they feel comfortable. And the more comfortable a person feels, the more likely they are to say something incriminating. This is also a way for the officer to build trust.
I met him when I was living in Medford, working at a place called the Purple Parrot. He was trying to find a job so he could find a place to live because he was homeless. He was very sweet, very clean cut, very nice. He took his figure. That's all he wanted to do was help people. All his life he was let down. He went from foster home to foster home to foster home. So I would let him come in to get warm. And then one day he didn't even have a coat. And it was like 3 degrees. And I go, where are you going? And he said, well, I'm just going to walk around until McDonald's opens. And I'm like, no, you're going to come home with me so you'll be warm. I felt like, enough was enough. This poor kid needs some help. No one's going to help him.
I think it was like a good 2 years that he was in our lives. Mostly in my mom's life. Like he really did become like a son to her. Anytime he was looking for help or willing to take help, she would help him.
Russell stated previously that he's diagnosed with autism. As a neurodiverse individual, Russell likely struggles with certain aspects of communication. Although he largely displays well-developed social skills, he exhibits circumstantial speech here. The various individuals named Aaron are not directly related to the conversation at hand. We'll continue to observe examples that support this diagnosis, as well as others, throughout the interrogation.
Yeah, I know. But I don't think I've ever met her father before. Yeah. I don't think I've met her before. You don't want to. I've never met you. I don't think I've met her. Yeah, we did hunting rifles. Yeah. It's a nice one. I've never seen it. Oh, okay. I've never met her. We have one. She told me because he likes to drink a lot. Oh, okay. So, and the other night, the reason why I was helping him was because he went into her room and laid next to her. And gone. Really? She tell you that? Yeah. And that's why I got her out. Yeah, we went down to the park. We met up there. I told her just like leave everything. Yeah. And just like get the hell out of there. Grab like one bag of clothes. Union?
He says Union is a question with his voice trailing upward. These are both indications that he may be lying. He hasn't said prior to this. So it's not a normal pattern of his speech, and answering a question with the inflection of a question shows uncertainty in your answer, either because you're lying or aren't confident in the response being correct.
Yeah, but I've always been kind of a protector of people, so.
This isn't the first time Russell has claimed to be a protector of people.
He looks out for people, and I think that he takes it a little too far. One of my family members drank a lot, and he wanted to go over and beat him up because he was emotionally abusive to me. I really disagree on what he did, but I think that he had the right intentions. He would always give you a jacket off his back. I mean, he did it in the worst way, but he just cares.
And he also had this grand idea of creating a community for homeless people or just young people that need help, that don't have help. So it's like he was always trying to go out and resource that, like trying to build that up. He still does. He still talks about that. People looked at him like a protector, and he really liked that. It made him feel valued, gave him a sense of purpose, because that was another problem. He didn't really have a sense of purpose. He was just kind of left in the wind.
Unless people piss me off, then they.
Style is a language. It's a way of connecting with others. It's a way of expressing oneself.
They become not really target in a bad way. Yeah. Just like target as in like someone that needs a firm talking to. Okay. Or a slap across the face, depending on. How much they paid for that? I get paid yet or not financially? No. Because I can't legally work with the SSI. Yeah. Because I can only work under the table jobs, and they just don't. How much SSI do you get? $735 plus a $22 chat a month. Yeah.
Russell begins giving the officer details of his family and personal life, which is a good indication he's developed trust with him. The investigators enter the room, and the officer asks one of them to step out.
Can I talk to you for just one quick minute? Hey, take care, bud. You do.
Likely to brief him on what they discuss that is relevant to the case, to see if he is consistent, and possibly to also let him know a little about his personality. So the investigator knows the best approach and techniques to deploy in getting what he needs from the interrogation.
Before we get too wrapped up in this thing, I just got here to work. Yeah. So I kind of want to explain why we're here today, Corey, and just
I don't even know why.
Okay. I'm going to have you just sit and listen to what the story is. And
yeah, I have nothing to hide. So.
Okay. You were very cooperative with this on the last deal.
Except for when the car like drove up onto the sidewalk, I was like a little bit troubled.
Yeah, surprised, right? Not too surprised in my line of work.
And then they told me to get on the ground, and I was trying to go on the ground.
Okay.
And they actually like helped me onto the ground. So, like they told me to get on the ground, so I'm trying to get on the ground. You don't have to push my ass. Seriously. Seriously? I can do it on my own.
Take a moment to place yourself in Russell's shoes. This is more than likely not something someone would say to a member of law enforcement in this situation. It's not tactical, let alone remotely helpful. He does this countless times, and it becomes increasingly clear that there are some other disturbing factors at play surrounding his involvement in the crime.
But you seem like a nice guy. The guy that I was talking to seemed like a nice guy. So
that's right.
Perfect. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Now all I need is a cigarette, and I'll be happy. But that we can though.
You want to get smoke?
Sure.
You have any smoke? I got some in my desk.
Are we all out there smoking?
Yeah, we can go outside and smoke.
Oh, outside.
Maybe I'll try that cigarette real quick?
Sure. All right, let's go. Yeah, because I smoke. I talk better when I have a cigarette. Yeah. Right now I'm like stressed out, and I don't know what's going on.
The investigators give Russell a drink and allow him to go out and have a cigarette. Both things are done to further put him at ease and to gain favor with him. Sometimes it's used as a carrot to get someone to confess, and they will tell the person that they can smoke after they tell them what happened, etc. People being interrogated are sometimes not yet under arrest, so they can leave if they want to, and they certainly cannot be forced to speak. The police try to make them feel less inclined to want to leave by giving them food and drinks and cigarette breaks, and so as not to violate any due process rights. Russell proceeds to tell investigators everything they need to know.
You can sit in that chair over there. Okay. And you bring your food in. Yeah, I guess it. Oh, okay. I have your pop bottle. Yeah.
As has been the case with Russell so far, we have few words to explain what exactly it is that happens next. Over the next few minutes, Russell continues to narrate his experience eating McDonald's French fries, but he also behaves in ways which we really don't know how to describe. Part of the re-interrogation technique discussed earlier involves isolation, or letting suspects sit on their own without much stimulation or social interaction. The goal is to increase suspects' feelings of panic or wanting to escape. It seems that Russell responds differently to attempts at isolation than most others. Between his dramatic displays of odd behavior, he begins to leak disturbing information critical to the case. We begin to receive small doses of the terrifying truth.
It wasn't really self-driven so much as it was deep in her. It was, you're listening in on my conversations, aren't you?
Camera off.
you're fed or not, I can still twist your little eye. Don't piss me off.
Nothing appears to register for Russell in terms of the gravity of the situation. He's unashamedly confrontational with law enforcement when they're out of sight. He holds delusions of grandeur specifically related to power. These types of delusions often form when individuals have been in abusive situations in which they were powerless.
And I think that's really why he went to go help, well, what he thought was helping these people that he got wrapped up in.
I mean, literally, for his 21st birthday, he'd never had a party. I made him a cake. We had a little party at my daughter's house. He ran around with the kids, so even though he's 21, he was playing with 10-year-olds, and having a great time. I let him to be a little kid because he told me he never got to be a little kid. For kids that are high functioning, they're, very giving, loving. They just want acceptance.
Good God. Nice. Very nice. It looks pretty good. Very understanding. I see food last time. And this time. Maybe I should talk to him more often.
Because Russell continues to talk and is making useful and incriminating statements, the investigator will likely let him sit in the room alone, talking for as long as he continues to do so.
No, I ain't no rat.
Russell had numerous encounters with law enforcement leading up to this moment. There are several charges on his record preceding this crime, including sodomy and abuse in the 3rd degree.
I wonder if I can be an undercover agent. Cool. I really want one.
There's evidently no one in the room with Russell, so he's either vocalizing an imagined dialogue or hearing someone who's not there. If the latter is true, this could be an auditory hallucination, meaning that Russell is hearing something non-existent. This, coupled with his delusions, would strongly indicate that he is in a state of psychosis. Individuals commonly reference the word psychotic when they see others acting in an aggressive, unusual, unstable, or other abnormal manner. But the technical definition involves issues with reality testing, distinguishing between what is objectively real and what is objectively not real. Behavioral manifestations may include delusions or hallucinations, and we know that, at a minimum, Russell experiences delusions. We'll later see that Russell previously commented that he suffers from bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder creates abnormal swings from neutral mood states to periods of abnormally high energy and/or irritability or mania, to periods of abnormally low energy and/or sadness or depression. This mental illness, affecting nearly 2.6% of the United States population, is the country's 6th leading cause of disability, and it tracks that Russell is on that list. Up to this point, we've witnessed particularly strange behavior, but none so strange as what follows.
You do know I know you're listening, right? So listen here. Ellie Fryer is my client, my protectee. I would like to see her asking, being polite. I know you're looking directly at me, aren't you? The information I gave is not worth $6. It's worth a lot more.
Russell behaves as though he's a supervillain. He's so removed from the reality of the situation that it may prove difficult to imagine the events that occurred earlier that day. When he accidentally turns off the recording device, he seems surprised that he can do so, and begins playing with it. The gravity of the situation he's in is clouded, but we don't yet know by what. He's visibly happy with this new sense of control he feels by being able to turn the recording device on and off. September 9th.
Red means you can't hear me. Green, you can. are to be released to me because the assault her father did the morning of the incident, defending a female. Now here's the thing. I know the cops' twisted little pathetic rule game. And actually, sometimes I like to think that I invented the rule book. I'm not exactly bragging, but I use reverse psychology, which makes me be able to...
Russell steeples his hands, which is a gesture to indicate superiority over those you're speaking to.
Make you think it's not Gavin, but in fact, your own kid, by reverse psychology, making you look like the lunatic. We can play it the easy way or the hard way. I'm talking nice. You got two choices. One, put a bullet through my head, or two, for all the evidence that I gave you guys, right there on a silver platter, right there, down to the last detail. Not one thing missing. A whole list, step by step by step. Even a third grader could read how easy that was. For one, Ellie is still technically a minor.
Russell is speaking to the officers in a condescending tone and looking at a non-existent watch. He's under the delusion that because he has confessed every detail of the crime step by step, they owe him something now.
You want to play hardball? I played baseball when I was younger. I wouldn't go there. And I know everything that I'm saying is being recorded, and I'm doing it on purpose. I can easily turn the speaker off and rant, and then you guys will come in thinking I'm a loony because you don't hear me. Here's the thing. I'm not the one with the donut fetish. Give a cop a donut, and he'll want a coffee to go with it. Give a mouse a cookie, and he'll want a glass of milk. Give a moose a muffin, and he'll want someone else. But here's my favorite one. What is it when a cop car is towed by a tuk-tuk? Port.
When the officers don't respond to his threats, Russell begins making police jokes and using police stereotypes. He continues on his narcissistic rant and delusions of having control and dominance in this situation.
So, we can either tell big jokes all day, or we can have a little chat. I'm very good at convincing people, and I don't even use hypnosis. I think I just a mess.
Again, Russell speaks to someone who is not there. This is either a hallucination or vocalized internal dialogue.
So, Ellie is to be handed over to me as soon as you guys can get her here. 2, Gavin is released so that when Ellie's kid is born, it can have a father.
Ellen had faked a pregnancy, and there was talk that she used this as a tool to motivate Gavin and Russell to kill Aaron.
When she first got locked up, she was trying to tell her that she was pregnant. She was not pregnant.
She told you she was pregnant? I knew for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks? She told you? Okay. Did you tell Ellie you don't want to kill him?
I told her, I don't want to do this. And I told her that I didn't want to kill him.
So when these kind of things happen, guys, there's usually something that clicks, and you make a decision on what you're going to do.
The investigator starts establishing premeditation, which is required for a first-degree murder charge.
How long before you hit Dad with the bat does that conversation come up?
She's been talking about it for a long time. I tried to be civil with Aaron and stuff. I was like, should I offer to go and have a cup of coffee and discuss why he can't beef with me?
So going back to you guys getting there around 2:30 in the morning, is it possible you got there earlier than 2:30?
We were at Union at like about 1:30.
And did you guys have to wait around for a little while?
We did. Ellie was like, just wait till he falls asleep and come in.
And where did you grab the bat from? Where did you grab the bat from before you walked into the front room?
No, I wanted to keep the bat for myself.
Okay.
Ironically, the bat that Gavin wanted to keep for himself, the bat that Gavin used to beat Aaron to death, was the bat that Aaron had on hand for protection. At best, Gavin used the murder weapon that was most convenient. At worst, Gavin took pleasure in this irony, claiming an ultimate power by using Aaron's sense of safety and security as a weapon against him, and walking out the door with it. Perhaps Gavin desired the bat for himself as a trophy.
So now you're walking from Ellie's room with the bat, and the plan for you is to walk out the front door.
That's what I mean, Ellie wanted me to kill him, but I didn't want to. I was planning on just walking straight out the front door.
Did you play along with Ellie and say, okay, I'll kill him? You did?
But then he woke up.
Did you tell Ellie how you were going to kill him?
No.
Did she ever mention, hey, use the bat?
Well, she said that if I wanted to, I could. And I was like, it's not that hard to punch someone in the throat.
Here, Gavin displays an out-of-place, boastful sense of pride over holding violence-related knowledge. This is a strong indicator of aggressive tendencies. Family and numerous friends and acquaintances confirm that Gavin held a violent streak. Another of Gavin's close old friends shared the following.
We used to get together and like play football or different things like that with a bunch of guys we knew. And a couple different times he ended up punching somebody or approaching somebody at one point. And then a couple of times, yeah, sort of unprovoked, kind of fight somebody at a youth group. It was more of just a one or two thing, and then he would walk away. It's not like he was trying to kill somebody at that time, obviously.
An additional past friend described that Gavin displayed unusually aggressive behavior a week preceding the murder.
Yeah. So last time I'd seen him, we were just hanging out, like smoked a little bit, wanted to like wrestle me. Like he's like, I'm a black belt. We should fight. He's never really wanted to fight. So I didn't know if maybe he was like trying to get prepared for, maybe, like this obviously like afterthought, like, oh, let's do it, like he wasn't very good at it. I don't think he was really a black belt. And it was just like, what?
Caden, who had attended South Medford High School with Gavin, explained that everyone in the school knew that he was scary and seemed dangerous when he shared his friend's experience.
He threatened one of my best friends, where he had actually sent a picture of a revolver to him, making the threat that he was going to, harm him. And then when they took it to the school didn't do anything about it.
We've watched Gavin cry and say repeatedly that he did not want to kill Aaron. We've also heard friends and family share stories depicting that he was quick to rage, often searching for an outlet for his aggression, whether it existed in tackle football, playful wrestling, or defending his friends. It leads us to a question of whether Aaron was another one of Gavin's outlets.
So she hands you the bat in the bedroom and tells you to go take that out. Okay, what were her exact words?
She said, go out in the front room, take him out, and text me, let me know when it's done. And to me, I was like, okay, so I guess she wants me to kill him, but I don't want to kill him.
So you take the bin and the dog barks. Where's the dog at?
Sleeping on the couch with him.
How do you know the dog was on the couch with him?
Like, cause I was like, when we were in the house, like I heard, like one of the reasons.
He's used the word like periodically throughout the interrogation, but here, Gavin uses almost back to back. This is a notable deviation from baseline and a strong indicator of general stress, most likely nervousness in the context of the topic.
Before leaving, because we heard him say, Sadie, move. And I was like, oh, okay. Because, like, he's probably disturbed a little bit.
Is it possible, Gavin, that you hit him while he was asleep?
I don't think so, no.
Is it possible, though?
It's possible he might still been asleep.
This eliminates any possible self-defense theory his lawyers might have wanted to use at trial.
But I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black.
What makes you think that he woke up?
He was like, who are you?
But is that after you hit him once or before?
That was before.
Okay.
Earlier in the interrogation, Gavin had clearly described that Aaron woke up and, in turn, Gavin acted on instinct. He is beginning to contradict himself, but it's not long before we hear the full truth.
Is it possible that he might not have said that And you just hit him while he was sleeping on the couch.
I don't remember.
Are you 100% sure you said he was that? Or could you just be telling me that, thinking that, trying to minimize this, making it look a little better? Because
I just hit him while he was asleep.
okay, so if you're gonna tell the truth, let's tell the truth all the way, okay? Was he awake when you hit him? Yes or no? Okay.
I mean, I wasn't wanting to kill him. But then the dog started barking, and I knew where I was. I just snapped because I didn't want to have to deal with him.
Make this the summer you realize the farther you go, the better it gets. And discover that even out here, you're never alone. Make this the summer of Jeep with the most awarded SUV.
It was after like the second swing, he was like, "What the?" And then
was he ever able to get up off the couch, or did you know? And be honest with us. Don't try to minimize things. How many times do you think you hit him?
I think I hit him about 6 times.
6 times? And were all those hits, where did you swing and hit him at?
Like, I hit his chest and his head.
Okay. Ultimately, did he stop talking, stop moving? Mm-hmm. Okay. When did you turn the light on?
Like, I stood there for a little bit. I don't know. It seemed like hours. And I was just like, what did I just do?
Okay.
Like, one time, we were at my mom's house. I told him to come inside. He wouldn't listen to me. So he went outside, and because my mom's in a wheelchair, pushed my mom down the driveway, and my mom fell back and cracked her head open.
Oh my gosh.
I know this might be tough, Gavin, but it's important to know. You stand right there for me. Right there. Stand up for me. And tell me that first time you swung the bat. Tell me exactly how you swung the bat the first time.
The investigator gets Gavin to reenact the actual murder, which helps both verify the confession and to show his actions match the evidence. This makes a false confession claim harder to get around.
I'm just like right here. Okay. His head's right here. I'm standing right here over his ankle. I went over his shoulder the first time, and then I started going up over my head.
And you, the first time you swung it, it was over the shoulder? And all the rest of the times you hit him, did you come up over the top?
Yeah.
You work at Del Taco, right? Mm-hmm. Did you take some gloves from work?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they light blue gloves, latex gloves? And where did you put those on before you went out the front room?
I had those on the entire time because I didn't want to. I mean, I was really just going in and out, trying to leave this like no fingerprints or anything. So.
And these aren't the clothes that you were wearing. So what does that come on?
No.
Where are the clothes?
I went home and I washed them.
Okay. Are they in the washer?
Yeah.
So is that over an almond?
No, that was over a Bobby's.
And I have a note here, but whose body?
Bobby Jackson's my best friend, and I'm his best friend. Been that way since like 6th grade, and Gavin kind of ended up joining us in that.
Kyle shared that he, Bobby, and Gavin were close, but no one else who he interviewed mentioned that this trio existed. Gavin embodied multiple personas. He didn't belong to any one group, and those he regularly spent time with seemed unaware of others he regularly spent time with. Interestingly, Kyle and Bobby in one location and Jacob in another claimed that Gavin was living with them at the time of the murder.
We were close. He was actually living with me and another guy and his mother when this all happened.
Gavin's friend Christopher Snow had also reported that Gavin was his roommate at the time. Christopher spoke to the press the day after the murder, explaining he was shocked, disbelieving that Gavin and Ellen were at odds with her father. The person who disagreed most with their relationship, according to Christopher, was Ellen's mother.
Does anybody know that you did this besides you and Ellie and RJ? Did you tell anybody else? No.
Gavin may not have told anyone that he followed through with Aaron's murder, but he certainly talked about wanting to kill him. No one we or the police spoke with commented that they suspected he would go through with it, but many commented that he'd spoken of it. In fact, one individual commented that Gavin regularly told others that he could get away with killing someone.
The example would say something along the lines of, I'd be able to get away with killing, it'd be easy, I don't
all these things. I watched all these documentaries. Like it was just something normal to say. Everything in his life seemed like it was a game to him.
Interestingly, Gavin displays nonverbal behaviors which indicate feelings of insecurity and discomfort. For example, he hunches his shoulders and crosses his arms tightly over his chest, making himself smaller and more contained, essentially an upright, adapted version of the fetal position.
Before you leave the house, are you being 100% honest with me that Ellie was out in the car?
Because we're really confused. Because when did she come back in and get the dog? She came back in after I hit her dad.
Note that Gavin commented, hit her dad, not killed her dad. This is distancing language, or language that places psychological space between the topic under discussion and the speaker. Either Gavin doesn't register the murder, or he cannot stand the thought that he killed someone.
Why do you think he did it?
To me, in my eyes, I felt like he was an enemy. Like he was out to hurt me.
Okay.
So,
what do you think happens when you hit somebody in the head with an aluminum bat?
there's a lot of brain damage.
You think it could cause somebody to die?
Yeah.
This is to establish another element of first-degree murder, is that it must be committed with some sort of intent to kill the person. The murderer must therefore have attacked or harmed their victim with the purpose of ending their life.
Did you do anything to try to give him any kind of aid?
No.
And how does Ellie get in the house?
She just comes in through the front door.
Hold on, when she comes through the front door, what does she see?
She sees her dad laying on the couch.
What does she say?
Well, she didn't say anything.
Did it shock her? Was she upset?
Not really, no.
Did you tell her what you did?
No.
Was it obvious?
Yeah, it was obvious.
Okay.
This is to show that Ellen knew this was going to happen, and that she was a co-conspirator, so she can't later deny knowing Gavin was planning to kill him.
When Ellie comes in, is he making gurgling noises, or has he stopped making those noises?
Gavin's body language is an extreme show of emotional distress. More genuine than the adapted version we witnessed previously, he is sitting in an upright fetal position, holding his knees to his chest. This is blatantly self-pacifying, indicating Gavin is far more affected by this than his vocal tone and straightforwardness suggest.
So she comes in, gets the dog. Does she go outside, or does she stay in the house with the dog?
She just goes outside. RJ and I, we opened the trunk, and then we put him in there.
So tell me about, let's back it up and walk through that slowly.
I'm sorry.
Individuals compress their lips under periods of great distress. Gavin's lips have disappeared.
And RJ came in to the front door, and RJ saw. What did RJ say to you?
He was like, "Oh God, that's gross." And then I was like, "Okay, you grab his feet, and then we'll get him out to the trunk." And then we kind of drug it through the yard, and then we just like lift him up into the trunk.
So, you're in the house. Do you guys go back into the house after?
This is to establish a possible burglary charge. It also shows the callousness and lack of remorse after the fact for the crime.
You ever getting any money in the house?
Oh yeah, she went and took some money from her dad's wallet. Yeah.
How much cash did she get?
She said it was like $40.
From his wallet?
Yeah.
So he obviously didn't have his wallet on.
Yeah.
Ellen can argue that she planned this to protect her sisters, and she can argue that he abused her, but few words, if any, explain why she would possess any moral justification to steal from her recently murdered father.
What was he wearing on the couch when you turned the light on?
He was wearing a black Raider shirt and a pair of black shorts.
Okay. When did she first bring up that she wanted her dad dead?
Like after he slapped her. And
How long ago? How long ago was that?
Like, this was a week before she texted me about the...
This shows that this specific incident of abuse was not the motive for the murder, at least not for Ellen. A prosecutor might submit to a jury that the likely actual motive for the killing of her father was him not letting his minor daughter and Gavin date.
Okay. And then once, as that conversation developed, did you ever come to what we're going to do with him afterwards?
I mean, RJ was like trying to tell me I have a friend, we can go up, leave the car there, you can tear the car apart, that way there's no car left. I'm very good at convincing people.
So what do you go to Bobby's house?
Bobby's, I stopped by, I just like swapped clothes and
and then you end up over on Almond Street. Okay.
Investigators later learned that Gavin had led them astray, hoping they would stop by Bobby's house so his friends would know that something had happened.
And run through us with what you were wearing at the time that you hit him with the bat.
Well, I was wearing my gray hoodie.
Not that one?
It was a gray pullover hoodie.
Okay.
It wasn't this one, though.
Okay.
Like all my hoodies.
What was on under the gray hoodie?
And then I had on, it was my Batman t-shirt, I think.
Okay.
And that I think I actually left at the house, but I don't think there was any blood or anything on that.
And what pants were you wearing?
I'm still wearing the same pants. I didn't change my pants. I changed my jacket.
So you were wearing those pants?
Yeah.
And what shoes were you wearing?
I was wearing my boots.
The ones you have on now?
Yeah.
The ones I don't think you're wearing now, or
they took them off, yeah.
Okay. What do you do when you get to the location where you guys dumped Aaron?
We kind of sit there and we're like, nature. It was peaceful. And
access to quality care may be closer than you think with United Healthcare.
It was relaxing.
Gavin discusses how it was peaceful and relaxing, looking at the woods and lake while sitting in the car, with Aaron's dead body in the trunk. This shows a serious lack of remorse.
When you get there, though, what do you guys do?
Oh, I'm sorry. So we kind of sat and we kind of enjoyed the view because it was nice out.
Gavin goes off on a tangent, displaying a symptom characteristic to his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder diagnosis: lack of focus.
And then what happened?
And then we're like, okay, let's get this done before anyone drives by or anything.
How did you get him out of the trunk? By himself or with the blanket?
I kind of just went up and grabbed him by underneath the shoulders and lifted him. So, and then RJ kind of like picked up his legs. It was the blanket pillow and all, and then we just like let it roll, and then it kind of wrapped itself up. So when it was rolling down the hill, the tarp wrapped itself up around him. I kind of tried to wrap him up a little bit, like cover up his feet.
The investigators keep a cool head while Gavin describes throwing Aaron's body off the embankment, along with some trash.
Is there still any blood in the trunk?
I don't know. I knew there was still some on the outside because he was kind of leaking everywhere.
Okay. And then where do you guys go from there?
We were like, okay, which way to Walmart? And that's when we went to Walmart.
Where does RJ stay?
He just stayed outside Flex.
And where did he get those cigarettes?
Those were her dad's.
No, what kind of cigarettes they were?
They were Camden 99s.
Okay. Ultimately, you and Ellie go in, you buy some junk food, did she buy a pregnancy test?
Yeah.
Then you guys come out of Walmart?
And we went outside, like, Ellie and I went upstairs because she had to use the restroom. And she also was going to check out the hair dye, so I gave her the hair dye, she went to the bathroom. She came back out, was like, this is the wrong stuff, and you go to return it. We went back to Walmart, and we got the refund of $9.77 was the refund. And then we go back out.
Picky about makeup and hair dyes, sneaking out of a bedroom window to see a forbidden older boyfriend, and conspiracy to commit patricide. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong.
You need something, bathroom water, something like that?
Can I get some water, please?
Yeah, you want a soda or anything?
No, you make some out to do.
Yeah. Okay, you want to do?
Yes, please. I don't think somebody gets things so nice to me.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Gavin is offered a drink, and he states how nice the police are being to him, showing that the Reed tactic they have employed has worked well, and they're seen as allies to him. It proves difficult to determine whether Gavin is experiencing true remorse over what he's done, or regret over the repercussions, or both. Whatever the case, Gavin's emotionality indicates that he didn't go about this entirely in control and intelligently. Up to this point, we can reasonably speculate that Gavin displays aggressive tendencies, violent behavior, and impulsivity. There's more to this story, but we'll cover that later. Gavin had displayed concerning behavior throughout childhood into adulthood, so much so that he was considered a possible threat to others at South Medford High School.
People talk about schools having like a list of kids who are potential threats. I'd say he was like the poster child for that person at our school. It was like an understood thing, about Gavin, that that's kind of the person that he was. Kind of a scary person, not someone you would think to mess with.
Yeah, it just kind of gave me like an off vibe sometimes. Everyone jokes around like, okay, if we had a school shooter, it'd probably be him.
Anything concerning with Gavin? Yes, we did a threat assessment, a threat to others assessment. I can't remember when he grabbed a student and was inappropriate on a few occasions. We also, I believe, did a risk to self assessment on him at least once, like that he said he was going to kill himself.
Yeah, something split in his head, man. Something he cracked. Like I said, it's like she did help her dad, but like I swear to God, she's crazy. From what I heard, she did some crazy, but I don't think she was so bad.
Alright. How you doing? You are? I tell ya, if I were in a police department, I would be wide awake.
Detective Smith is consistently direct with Ellen. She implies here that Ellen should be more alert, despite Ellen being sleep deprived because of the circumstances. This seems rather counterintuitive, considering that Ellen is already displaying high levels of resistance, which interrogators typically counter with empathy and kindness.
We talk to everybody that is involved, and then, okay? Okay. I've been under the weather lately. Oh, goodness. Okay.
Ellen makes poor attempts at eliciting sympathy in whatever way she can throughout the interrogation, but the investigator pays little mind, often implying that Ellen is, for lack of a better word, dramatic. This is markedly histrionic behavior. Histrionic essentially means melodramatic. In the mental health world, histrionic behavior is heavily and unsurprisingly present in histrionic personality disorder. It can be a symptom of a variety of other disorders as well, but generally refers to maladaptive, attention-seeking, and exaggerated behavior.
And then we talk and try to hammer out and figure out who's saying what's going on, and try to really get the real story from everybody, okay? Is it okay if I keep talking to you kind of about what we've learned? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then if you feel like letting me know stuff, you do that. Does that sound fair? Yeah. Okay. So, this morning when the police were called to your house, it was because your sisters actually saw you and Gavin and somebody else in there, a couple other people, and they're leaving. Then they saw a lot of blood in the house, okay? So then what they did was call Michelle. You know Michelle? No, I don't know Michelle. I'm pretty sure that's her name. Your dad's girlfriend who was over at the house last night? Oh, Mickey. Mickey, thank you. Mickey. Okay, thanks for helping me out. They called Mickey and they ran to your mom's house, and so everybody is really concerned and worried about you. And your dad, because we actually don't know where your dad is right now. That's really frustrating. It's really disturbing to hear. I agree.
Consistent with previous displays, this behavior is more than awkward. It's uncomfortable, what some might call cringy to watch. We can tell she's attempting to muster up and replicate something resembling shock, panic, or concern, but she falls considerably short of the mark. Nonverbal experts might determine she is being disingenuous from reading her robotic arm movements, chiral facial expression, or incongruent verbal and nonverbal communication. Even her word choice comes off as suspicious. Imagine being detained, sitting across the table from an investigator in an interrogation room, and learning that your father is missing, and there is blood everywhere in your living room. Would your response be robotic? That is very disturbing to hear. This is more so an explanation of an emotion, not an expression, which is why we easily sense that something is off. The investigator directly challenges Ellen with step 1 of the Reed interrogation technique discussed earlier, positive confrontation. She lays all the evidence law enforcement has indicating Ellen's involvement up to this point. We also can tell from this moment and from points earlier in the interrogation that Detective Smith is attempting to set up a theme that involves Ellen's sisters. Similar to Gavin's moral justification for committing the crime, Ellen's might be that she was trying to protect her 2 younger sisters.
I absolutely agree. Your sisters are a little bit disturbed by that as well. They, because they're scared that they saw you leaving. They're scared there's blood in your house, and they're scared that nobody knows who your dad is. So they're awfully little to have those kinds of worries. Maybe he was looking for me. So where did all the blood come from in your house? I don't know. Okay. Mickey knows that you were there, Sierra was there, Olivia was there, your dad was there. So it would be nice if we could get some of this figured out. And like I said,
Detective Smith makes a skillful confrontation about figuring out what's going on, without making a direct contradiction to Ellen, who begins to gesture and move without purpose. For instance, she momentarily glances at her nails here. These meaningless gestures and movements grow to be progressively more pronounced. Meaningless movement, otherwise known as fidgeting, is a widely known nonverbal indicator of nervousness. Pay attention to the topic of conversation during times when Ellen fidgets the most.
So, somebody else is talking to Gavin, somebody else is talking to Mike. Oh, hello, Allie there?
That's it.
Okay. So, it would be nice if we could get on the same page now, okay?
Excuse me, what's your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, I'm barely awake right now, and I barely have any recollection of what happened yesterday or within the 24 hours.
Do you need coffee?
I hate coffee.
Okay.
I try to stay away from caffeine and other chemicals.
And you don't eat meat. Is there anything we can get you, like, from a fast food restaurant that would...
No, thank you.
Okay.
In all honesty, I don't feel like I deserve that.
You don't deserve food? Why?
Make this the summer you realize the farther you go, the better it gets. And discover that even out here, you're never alone. Make this the summer of Jeep with the most awarded SUV brand.
Finally, Ellen expresses something resembling guilt. At least that is what it seemed like before she said,
I don't feel like I deserve anything my basic human rights.
Oh.
Especially when it comes to my father.
Okay, help me understand that.
You've shamed me for the way that I eat Christmas.
Okay. Like in what way?
Just shaming me.
Well, you don't eat meat. Do they comment about that?
My dad ridiculed me for that.
Okay. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with you being hungry and us wanting to go out and grab you something if you want something.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
But thank you for the offer.
So you bet. Yeah.
Some may feel bad for Ellen, but keep in mind what she was recently part of. It could be that her father ridiculing her over food was only one piece to the puzzle that set her off. But fixating on this detail in this moment, going so far as to share it with Detective Smith, indicates egocentrism, which involves interpreting life as though it exclusively revolves around the self, and maladaptive self-pity. There could be a persecution complex here. If Ellen holds a persecution complex, she possesses a persistent belief that others have malintent toward her. It's hard to determine whether there's mental illness involved at this point. She could be playing the sympathy card.
Tell me about Gavin being at the house this morning.
He was walking with me everywhere, so if we weren't there, then he was there.
Okay. And what were you guys doing there?
Probably I don't know.
I know. Again, I am absolutely not trying to sound rude, but some things I just kind of have to lay out, okay?
I understand.
Are you an AP student?
Yes.
You take AP classes?
Mm-hmm.
Taking AP classes, you've got to work really hard in those classes, and I know that. Okay, so I know there were times you were really super tired and you were still studying. So for you to sit here and tell me how tired you are and you can't remember, I feel like maybe that's just an excuse because you don't want to talk about something that's super hard to talk about.
Detective Smith is narrowing the ability for Ellen to be evasive.
We are all trying to piece together what happened because we're very worried about your dad. And I get that it doesn't sound like to you he was the best dad.
Of course I'm going to be worried about him. He might have abused me for most of my life, but he's still my father.
No.
Ellen uses every opportunity to sneak in a comment about how her father was abusive. Again, we re-arrive at the idea that Ellen is not fully aware or functional during this interrogation, only because she is so poorly lying and concealing her negative feelings toward her father, which would, as Ellen might logically reason, add to motive. She's reportedly intellectually gifted. It raises a question as to whether Ellen is attempting to pull off shock, or whether she's a 15-year-old struggling to comprehend how to get out of a bad situation.
So one of the things that has also happened is Southwestern High School has a school resource officer, and apparently you're still a student there. And you had like a band thing this weekend, and your dad came and picked you up from the school at like 3 in the morning?
Ellen coughs nearly every time she takes a drink and looks up to Detective Smith to see her reaction. This is histrionic, dramatic, and pity-seeking behavior. But it also occurs each time the conversation becomes more heated. Note that Detective Smith is quite direct in her confrontation in this moment.
Are you going to choke on your water? It worries me.
My throat's burning right now.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to drink the water, but if it's going to hurt, maybe give it a little break. That's not okay? Anyway, have you met Officer Jackson, who's the school resource officer at South?
No.
Okay. So Officer Jackson says you are a current student there. Why would Officer Jackson say that? I think because you're a current student there and you're kind of pulling my leg a little bit. And that you're in band.
I do know about a lot of underage people having marijuana though.
Okay. Well, that's probably a dime a dozen these days.
Ellen makes an additional attempt to divert attention away from her wrongdoing onto someone else's wrongdoing. This is otherwise known as deflection, and it's Ellen's favorite type of defense mechanism.
I've had temporary amnesia in the past. There was a couple of instances where I have passed out and lost my vision and my memory.
Okay.
And it was when I had a throat stone.
Do you have a throat stone right now?
No.
Oh.
A while ago.
Okay. So when you have this temporary amnesia, who takes you to the doctor?
I don't really talk to anybody or reach out.
You would certainly tell your mom or your dad if you have temporary amnesia.
I feel like I can't really go to them for anything. I feel like I'm a bother.
Where's your dad?
I don't know.
If you needed to get a hold of your dad right this second, what would you do?
I would call his cell phone.
What's his career? What does he know how to do?
Sometimes he does, like, yard work or something.
What was the last job he did?
Like I said, a roofing job or something.
Oh, the roofing job? You said for a neighbor?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he get paid for that?
I believe so.
How much money did he get for that?
I don't know, Stephanie.
Okay. You know, I'm just trying to figure out what happened. That's all.
I'm trying to piece together everything right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, so far you've told me you're 18 and your name is Rain. And I'm here to tell you, you're 15 and your name is Ellie. Okay, maybe you go by Rain. Do you go by Rain?
Yes.
Okay.
Rain and Rose.
So your friend would know you as that, like Russell goes by Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Note that while Ellen has allowed Detective Smith to state that her name is Ellie and she's 15, Ellen has not accepted blame or outright acknowledged that she was lying. Ellen's lies surrounding her identity could indicate that dissociation is present. Ellen would be in a state of dissociation in this moment if she's protecting herself by psychologically separating herself from something. In this case, her identity. Separating oneself from one's identity is a form of dissociation termed depersonalization. For example, she wants to be someone else who did not conspire to kill her father and potentially go through traumatic abuse.
Rose. They call me Rose. I'm so out of it right now. I haven't taken any drugs.
Okay.
You can test me for anything you like.
Rumor was that Ellen began to dabble with THC and nicotine once she reached high school, following the occurrence of a specific taboo incident.
Literally, her and some kid, like, maybe on the bus, got, like, in trouble for it. After that, she started, like, smoking and, like, doing bad things.
Based on accounts of others, evidence is mounting that Ellen's problem behavior emerged around 14 or 15. 50% of all mental illnesses begin by the age of 14.
I told you, Sierra saw you at the house with Gavin this morning. Olivia saw you at the house this morning with Gavin and a couple other people. Sparkle Beach is somewhere I don't know, but you took Sparkle Beach this morning from your sister. So, I mean, that's just like what I'm coming up with off the top of my head as things that I have told you that should be perking you up and waking you up and like, oh my goodness, I'm sitting at the police department. I've just heard all of these facts. I've talked to a lot of people about difficult stuff, and the things you're doing right now are not unusual for people to do when they don't want to talk about something, or it's hard for them to talk about something. Okay, I don't want you to explain. Oh, it's fun. Okay. I don't want to take your water away, because if you want it, you need it. But you also keep worrying me about every time you drink it.
It's all back in my throat now.
Okay, you're good then? Okay. All right. What was Gavin doing at your house?
Walking around.
Okay. Doing what though?
Walking around.
So what was Gavin doing in there then?
If he was there, then and my dad let him in, I wouldn't have let him in without talking to my dad.
Well, you were there too. So you were packing up.
Packing up?
Yeah. We need to get past the tough stuff to talk about.
In reference to tough stuff to talk about, this is a passive confrontation made in an effort to appear sympathetic and understanding.
Saying I don't remember, saying I'm tired, saying any of that is a cop-out.
So the truth is a cop-out.
So what's the truth?
I don't remember. I'm so out of it.
What do you think Gavin and Mike are saying?
I don't know.
So let's imagine. Hocus pocus.
Okay.
I have no idea.
This is an obvious ploy to play the prisoner's dilemma. Law enforcement regularly utilizes the prisoner's dilemma to coerce drug dealers into ratting each other out. Technically, it occurs when two parties each make self-beneficial decisions, which result in a less than ideal outcome for both.
I think they're being honest.
Yeah, I've known them to be honest people. I only Gavin knows the police force here.
Who's Mike?
Only Gavin's my friend.
Okay.
Only Gavin's like.
Detective Smith has made a sliver of progress. She's gotten a small foot in the door. The foot in the door technique is used to counter resistance in interrogations. Ellen has acknowledged that the two other detained individuals are in fact Gavin and Russell, and that she does in fact know who they are.
Jurassic World Dominion, the extended version. Streaming only on Peacock.
May seem like a small victory, but by way of the foot in the door technique, Detective Smith has greatly increased the chances of Ellen providing more important information.
And that was actually the older boyfriend.
We were friends with benefits, but never really in a relationship.
Okay. And did your dad approve of that relationship?
I didn't really tell him about it, but he saw us holding hands and freaked out.
Mm-hmm. It's just dawning on me, and I'm going to point this out to you, that you have a pretty good memory of all of that stuff, but you can't tell me what happened
As my past?
10 hours ago, not even 10 hours ago.
My past was abandoned me.
Okay.
Because of how much pain it brought me.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what happened 7 hours ago?
What?
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen a parent act the way your mom was acting this morning. She was literally on the ground, sobbing. On her knees with her head buried into the ground, sobbing. She's worried about you. She's worried about Aaron.
I'm worried about my dad, too. From what you've said, there's blood at the house and he's gone?
Yeah. I feel like that probably doesn't come as a complete shock to you.
I'm very good at hiding my emotions. I have to be strong for my little sisters.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot at this point you owe your little sisters. What if your dad can still be helped?
Then let's find him.
Mm-hmm.
Detective Smith is gauging Ellen's response.
Will you have a band thing up in Salem?
PCI.
What's that?
Pacific Coast Invitation.
What instrument do you play?
It's like the front percussion. I don't even know the name of the instrument I play.
Do you play cymbals?
No.
Do you play a triangle?
No.
Detective Smith is warming Ellen up, encouraging her to talk about something she knows Ellen enjoys, music. Most of those we spoke with who knew Ellen knew her through band.
She was just kind of, an average band student. I think she played the clarinet and bass clarinet. She did band camp, so she did marching band. I would say that's like where the majority of her friends are kind of located. She was one of the kids who, hung out, in the area during lunch and stuff. So she was, just a regular band kid.
You gonna take a little sleep?
I'm really tired.
Okay. All right.
Ellen puts her head down as if to go to sleep, passively ending the conversation at this point. A very common tactic employed when a suspect is not getting the information they want from the investigators. Since she cannot craft her story to fit the facts, she attempts to stop talking.
Excuse me? I get some nausea medication.
Nausea medication? There's garbage can right there, okay? I'm gonna see. I know we have Tylenol, Advil.
Ellen then asks for a place to lay down. Detective Smith leaves. Afterwards, Ellen continues picking at her skin and her nose, and appears to place her fingers in her mouth. Consider the meaning behind Ellen's non-purposeful gestures in these moments. Although Ellen appears guiltless at times, her physical ailments may be legitimate somatic manifestations of her guilty conscience.
Okay. I got blankets. Is that fine?
She knocks on the door. An officer comes by and Ellen asks for the restroom.
I'll give you a minute. One second, okay? All right.
The officer then leaves. She's avoiding her surroundings any way she can. Sleep, leaving the room asking for nausea meds, which will likely make her tired and sleep. This is a common avoidance triad often used by suspects.
Hi. Do you need to use the restroom? Okay, come on.
Ellen is getting bored. This is a common tactic we see, where a suspect is left alone in an interrogation room and they become bored and anxious. The goal is to convince them that talking will get them out of there sooner, leading to a sort of reprieve, both physical and psychological. Detective Smith returns. She brings paper and crayons. While this is seemingly infantile for a 15-year-old girl of allegedly sound mind, it could be her drawings will be examined for indicators of evidence, state of mind, or other information. They may also serve to relax her and ease her anxiety, making her somewhat more likely to talk, though ultimately still be bored with such simplistic items when questioning resumes.
Hi. A lemonade? Well, I know what it is. And a pretty treat.
Detective Smith reminds Ellen of her rights. This is common whenever there's been a break in questioning.
So, I know Gavin was at the place at your house this morning. I know your dad's fine. I know Mike was standing outside of your house. I know you guys went down to Gavin's house on Almond. I know that you moved the car around. Okay? I want you to know that we know what's going on. And the bottom line in all of this is why did all of this happen today?
She's searching for corroboration.
Why did all? I'm sorry, can I get some more water?
Yeah, you can. But you haven't been doing this stuff with your throat since I've left. I mean, playtime's a little bit over. So why did this happen today?
In response to Detective Smith's question about why did this happen today,
Why today?
Ellen asks if she means her plans to run away.
Why did I try to run away?
But Detective Smith quickly closes down this denial by stating,
You know that's not what I'm talking about.
this is an indirect confrontation purposefully left vague to encourage the suspect to speak of the crime in their own words.
Why was Gavin at your house? Why was Mike standing outside your house, or Russell, or whatever you call him? Why did you guys go down there? Why did you guys end up out on Highway 140? Well, I actually know the answer to that. We're not playing anymore. We have the facts.
Detective Smith insists that they have the facts. They have stories and statements, but they don't have facts. This is common misdirection, and at this point the questioning will get more direct and targeted. Detective Smith is done playing games, and Ellen knows it.
Can we start from the beginning of your side now? We have other sides. What I don't have is your side, because you've been messing with me all morning. Can we have your side?
Yes.
Tell me your side.
Where should I start?
Have you been taking clothes out of your house?
Yes.
Okay. Start there.
Well, my situation with my father abusing me has gotten worse. So I was looking for a way out. So I started a plan to run away. So I started transporting all of my clothes to Gavin's house.
Note as Ellen talks, she also keeps scribbling with crayons. She's splitting her attention to avoid the interrogation as much as possible.
All of that blood that your sisters walked in on is your dad's blood. What is going on?
My father.
Ellen states, Russell attacked my father, and his bloody machete is over by the northern Walmart. This signifies a major shift in her psychological stance towards both Detective Smith and the interrogation.
So tell me everything you saw that happened to your dad.
I didn't see anything. Like I said, I was in the back room, and when I heard the whole thing going on, I jumped out the window and I ran.
Okay.
There's something different about the way Ellen speaks here versus the way she's spoken previously. The cadence is off. She cuts herself short. She's lied consistently up to this point, but this moment seems significant. Perhaps the outcome of the conversation is more salient to her at this point. Whatever the case, her speech deviates significantly from baseline, an indication of heightened physiological arousal.
Okay, I'm gonna take notes so I can keep track of this, okay? How do you know Russell was with your father?
Because Gavin was with me with my stuff. He was with my stuff.
How do you know Gavin was with your stuff?
Because I could see him through the back window.
How do you even know that a machete was involved prior to going out to that North Walmart area?
Because he had it on him. And then he pulled it out, and I saw blood on it, and I realized what had happened.
And how were you guys getting around, like to the Walmart or that kind of thing?
Russell got the keys, and they took my dad's car.
This is another inconsistency. In terms of the last time Ellen claimed to have been in the car, several days prior to the murder, Ellen continues to scribble with the crayons.
So, where did you meet up with whoever was in the car?
The alley.
Okay.
Gavin took me back and I pulled it into the alley.
And what's the very next thing that happened?
Then Gavin and I go in to get the rest of my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Gavin has the car started, and Russell has a tarp hanging out of the back seat, or the back trunk.
Yeah.
And then...
Did you stop at Gavin's house first?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And we dropped all of my stuff off, and then I was hungry.
What about your dog?
We dropped the dog off there.
Okay.
I'm there now.
Okay. Okay. So you and Gavin go into Walmart, and then you said go to the SFI building?
Yeah, that's what Mike wanted to do.
What did you want to do there?
I guess he wanted to make Gavin regret things.
Did you go back to Walmart?
Yes, I went back into Walmart to return something.
Oh, what did you return?
Hair oil.
Okay. Where was Mike during that?
Well, since he killed my dad, and I have suspicions that he was in the trunk, maybe he went to do something with the body.
Detective Smith pauses.
And I've been a little bit, blunt with you during this process.
That's what I appreciate when I don't like people that beat around the bush.
This is a dissonant contrast to her previous behavior, playing an extensive game of cat and mouse.
For the life you live and the future you want.
Then I'm going to be blunt with you. The information I have is you knew your dad was in the trunk. My guess is it probably wasn't a great feeling to know that your dad was in the trunk. Am I right? Yeah. What were you saying to Mike and Gavin about your dad being in the trunk?
I was asking them about, what's in the trunk with the tarp, and they're like, a body. I'm like, whose body? Why, is my dad in there? And Russell said yes. I believe that Russell was the one that killed my father.
Okay. Was anybody wearing gloves today?
Russell was.
Okay. Were you?
At one point, yes. I think, because Russell was the one that insisted that I put the gloves on.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened? You put the gloves on?
I put the gloves on, we go to Walmart.
So when we get the video footage from you in Walmart, we're going to see you in latex gloves walking around?
I didn't put them in my pockets, and yes.
Okay. Did you help with your dad out on 140? Because that would have been hard too.
140?
Yeah. We have found your dad, and we know he is dead. And we know that you and Gavin were there when he was taken out of the trunk. That's just things we know, okay?
They did pull over somewhere. That must have been where it was.
Yeah.
And then Russell threw the body over.
How did that make you feel?
Whether a suspect expresses remorse or is perceived to express remorse, it may influence severity of sentencing. A defendant who confessed and appears remorseful is more likely to avoid the death penalty.
I felt really bad.
Uh-huh. What did you say about it?
I yelled. I blew my top off.
Mm-hmm. What did you yell?
A lot of things that I regret.
Tell me an example.
Knowledge of the crime now has been clearly established, and Detective Smith is working towards establishing elements of both the crime of murder and additional crimes like conspiracy.
Swear words, but I was so mad that I used just a bunch of swear words.
To who?
Mike.
More than not feeling, Ellen struggles to identify emotions that would fit this moment, stating that she was using a bunch of swear words when Gavin and Russell, or as Ellen tells it, just Russell, were throwing her father's body off the side of the embankment.
One of the things also out there by your dad is the baseball bat.
A baseball bat? Is that what he used? Because my dad kept the baseball bat by the front door for protection.
Okay.
As a reminder, compare Ellen's behavior throughout the interrogation to the behavior Detective Smith established at the beginning of the interrogation. This behavior is similar to what Ellen was expressing when Detective Smith collected Ellen's baseline. Her paralanguage and micro-expressions are similar.
Where is that baseball bat now?
Well, you said it was found, so he must have saw it and used it along with the machete. Because the machete did have blood on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was dried.
How do you know it was blood?
It was red. Okay. Dark red, dried blood. I know what dried blood looks like. I'm a woman.
Okay. And tell me about what the baseball bat looked like.
It was dark. It was a black metal baseball bat.
Mm-hmm. The information we have is that you actually threw that baseball bat up into the tree.
What?
Mm-hmm.
But I was in the car.
I'm a little bit thinking maybe you weren't in the car.
She is digging deeper into the extent of Ellen's participation in the crime. The whole time, she remains sympathetic and calm with Ellen.
Did you put it up in the tree?
I kicked it. I don't know if I kicked it. That's why I didn't put it. I'm fine.
Oh, wait, let me see. You have a line on your foot from kicking the baseball bat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know if you can tell.
Was he making any noise or anything?
No.
Could you tell if he was alive or if he was dead?
No. He was wrapped up. I saw his head covered in towels and he was in a blanket.
Okay. And how did his head get covered in towels?
I guess Mike or Gavin must have wrapped him. But Gavin seemed just as shocked that that happened as I did.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mike took it too far and did that.
Okay. And where was he when you saw that?
They were pulling him out of the trunk.
And when you say they, you mean Gavin and Mike?
Yeah, Mike did most of it though.
Okay. But, I mean, he needed help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ellen states they were dumping the body, but stated previously that Russell did this on his own. She continues to struggle to keep track of her lies.
Like what, do you know the names of roads?
Yeah.
You do? What roads were you on that you know the names of?
I know that we went on Hillcrest.
You know you went on Hillcrest?
That's all I can remember. I was just kind of sitting there freaking out, staring at the road.
Okay. Okay. So, however way you're on Hillcrest, and then you get out to the road where your dad is taken out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Detective Smith employs a variety of active listening skills. Active listening encourages individuals to discuss difficult topics. Detective Smith additionally attempts to recreate the route taken to dump the body. This is another part of the narrative that will be important to the DA's case against the suspects. It will also help corroborate times and locations.
So Mike and Gavin were out. They tell you to get out. Mm-hmm. They tell you to do something? Mm-hmm. What?
So things over. Gavin handed me the baseball bat.
Somebody handed you a shirt?
Mm-hmm. A pink shirt.
Was it pink because that was its normal color?
Yeah.
Okay. Did it have blood on it?
If they must have thrown it out, then I guess so. It was all bunched up.
They felt like it was a problem, so they wanted to get rid of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what do you see next?
I see Mike particularly push it down. Like it goes. I saw it go over.
Did you see your dad's face?
No.
While this seems an odd question, it goes to knowledge of the circumstances and will confirm whether any or all suspects disposed of the body, or if they only disposed of other items at that time.
Okay. Then they drive away, and then Mike gave Gavin directions as to where to leave the car. I don't remember where. Mm-hmm. Somewhere hilly.
Ellen fiddles with a wristband, another meaningless action and indication of physiological arousal of some sort.
And so then what happened?
Well, I got my speaker back from a friend.
Who was that person?
Jeff.
Did you guys tell Jeff anything about what had been happening?
No.
Law enforcement stopped by Jeff's house and discussed exactly what had happened.
I asked how they were doing. They said they were doing fine and they were smiling. Gave them the speaker and I said, all right, well, I gotta get back inside. Gavin gave me a hug and then they left.
And then we got detained.
So tell me about your relationship with your dad.
Well, he used to be a good father, but he started getting abusive about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And you had told me about a time he called you mean names. Has that happened more than once?
It happens all the time, or did happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what brings it on. He just does it. I take all of the whatever happens.
Mm-hmm. How did you treat your sisters?
Like gold. She would get drunk, and wherever I was sleeping, he would come and he would lay naked with me.
Mm-hmm.
And he would.
Okay.
So I would leave and try to sleep somewhere else in the house.
Mm-hmm. When's the last time that happened?
A couple of days ago, Saturday, after I came back from my band trip.
Okay.
And then Nikki came in and pulled him back into the room.
When she came out, would she have seen him laying on the couch?
She saw his head, but I think that's about it, because she just kind of poked her head around the corner and sit there and come back into the room. He's like, oh, okay, crazy lady.
Has he ever?
Yes.
Okay.
He got on my hand, but then I just started scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing because I felt so dirty.
When was that?
And so ashamed of myself. Like, right after I did this scene, like in the new year.
Okay.
I felt so ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stop. Why did you do that to my daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Why should I do that to myself? You're the first person I really told about this because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's breaking down because I've been suppressed on memories. I never told my mom about it, and she's going to be angry when she finds out that I had it.
Well, what does Gavin think that your dad's doing?
He just thinks he knows that he's been abusive towards me.
As far as the name calling and
The
grabbing
physical
you?
and the emotional abuse, but not. Would you call this abuse? I'm not sure.
So I think different people have different definitions, so that would certainly be up to you if you think that.
I'm not sure what to call it at this point.
Do you want me to find tissues for you?
I'll be fine. This jacket is waterproof.
Okay. Okay. I think we'll have somebody bring us in some tissues, okay? Because I know this is hard to talk about. I know.
What did you do to me? I have no idea what you said to my sister.
Because Ellen has been consistently dishonest, many of us may question whether her behavior is an outlandish form of deflection and diversion at this point. As this line of questioning progresses, Detective Smith hears about possible motives, but again, it's unclear that any of Ellen's claims are true.
He had said this girl was being abused, possibly by her dad. The other thing that he had said is that she had a boyfriend that the dad did not approve of. So that's also why we're kind of like, is she really being abused? Or does she just really just wants to date who she wants to date?
I just want to know why he thought it was okay. Because it was a big time he was sober. I just don't know.
It's okay. You can be upset.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah?
I'm really sorry.
It's okay. I mean, are you sorry you're crying?
My dad would hit me when I cried.
She is clearly distraught here. Recall Gavin's less blatant, self-hugging nonverbal in his interrogation.
Plan is to get her bags and get her the hell out of there.
Believe it. This seemingly insignificant posture is a prominent tell that individuals are emotionally distressed in some way. A new nonverbal indicator, even more telling if interpreted with Ellen's pacifying self-hug, is that Ellen is raising both shoulders high up to either side of her ears. This is also known as the turtle effect. Turtles recede into their shells to protect themselves against threat, and we can imagine that if Ellen had a shell, she would be tucking her head into it right now.
Tears.
Well, I'm just going to give you a minute, okay? I'm going to be gone for a second. I'll be gone long enough for me to find you a tissue. Okay?
Ellen appears to be experiencing genuine surges of emotion well after Detective Smith has exited the room. She alternates rapidly between highly distraught to neutral expressions. Recall Jillian's statement about Ellen's rapidly shifting moods, which we discussed more accurately resembled rapidly shifting emotions. We could infer from Ellen's expressions in this moment that she's struggling to regulate her emotions. This isn't to say that it's not reasonable for Ellen to be distraught over the alleged abuse, but rather that her specific way of responding hints at potential abnormal emotion regulation and possible psychopathology.
She's just kind of filling us in, and she's going to come back in and chat with you. Okay? All right. It's really important that you're truthful. Not everything at this point. We're going to help get through this, okay? All right. So she'll be back in just a minute. Okay. All right.
The officer encourages Ellen to be truthful about everything. Common thing to say, to play as if the truth is liberating and will help the suspect. It rarely helps them, though.
You are an artist. It sounds like there's been some talk about your dad and the way he treats you and like what to do about that and how to fix that. Do you know anything about those conversations?
This is the overture to establishing premeditation. Discussing conversations also sets up the stage for charges of conspiracy to commit murder.
There's not any that I was involved in that I know about.
It sounds like at least something had been planned.
I think Mike might have planned something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I heard a knock on the door. And Mike was the only one in the yard at that point. And then I heard the door open. And I guess, I don't know, maybe he tackled my dad since all the blood was on the couch. The majority of it. At least from what I saw. I don't know.
I feel like you're putting a lot on Mike.
Ellen spends a large portion of her interrogation blaming Russell, and Russell spends a large portion of his interrogation demanding her release. It's a tragic contrast.
3, all charges are to be dropped, and every recording due to that is to be destroyed.
Russell seems completely detached from reality, relishing in his perceived position of power by the demands he makes.
know cops are really good at that. Oh, I misplaced that file. Oh, I know your sick, twisted games, boy. 2 hours. Because I know Gavin has been put in a different holding cell in a different building. Release him, bring him here without handcuffs. You guys can hold on to the goods. I really don't care. So, we can do this the nice way and we negotiate, or we can do it the hard way and I can release my bipolar.
I didn't even know how to beat the legal system with its own laws, too. Never tricked me, buddy. What are you diagnosed with? Autism, bipolar, definitely don't give me that. 90% of the time I'm cool. Okay. Unless you give me reason to hit you, then I hit you.
But actually, you don't really want that.
He seems to grow increasingly frustrated when none of these tactics gain traction. So he next tries setting a time limit to which they must comply, and arrogantly turns off the recording, gesturing to it as if it's some sort of standoff that the police are actually contemplating.
Clock's ticking. Gavin, Ellie, there. Or I say no more. Punk.
These are nonverbal signs of aggression and dominance.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some bacon.
Russell begins to more directly mock law enforcement, showing clear signs of a lack of respect for authority. He's joking, but there are highly negative undertones to what he relates.
With that grease there and a grease there, everywhere grease all over the road. Whee! All the way home. 5 little piggies eating at the trough. Wait, no, wrong one. 3 little monkeys jumping on the bed. Wait, no. Hey, you guys want to hear another cop joke? 3 little pigs fell in the mud. That's a dirty joke. You want to hear a clean joke? You didn't scrub hard enough.
His behavior grows progressively confrontational, and his demeanor is far less lighthearted.
Oh boy, that's not good. I should really have a talk with my bipolar side. No, you shouldn't. Yes, I should.
Some may argue that Russell is unknowingly working against the potentially damaging effects of the isolation aspect of the Reed interrogation technique. Russell takes control of the situation, regardless of whether it's founded in reality, likely reducing his feelings of boredom, thereby contributing to reduced emotional or psychological distress.
Please send Gavin and Ellie Fryer into this room, please. Thank you. Asking nicely.
He might be under a delusion, but Russell's behavior is still notably histrionic, similar to what we see throughout Ellen's interrogation. He puts on a variety of melodramatic displays.
Scissors and pocket knives are nowhere on me, but my teeth are very sharp as well. I just found the wire that goes into the wall, and I'd really hate to get hurt by a cop. Or is it the other way around? I forget.
The police continue to let him speak, giving him all the rope he needs to hang himself further.
Who cares anyway? I just saw Gavin go by. Here's the thing. You passed the door. Bring him back. Please. Thank you.
Individuals exposed to violence often display violent tendencies that develop as defense mechanisms. Here, it's almost as if Russell is putting up fists preparing to fight with his past, the one which reportedly included a significant amount of violence.
So one thing that we, just to kind of run you through it, and I'll let Jim take over, is you wanted to have a cigarette, we went outside, gave you a cigarette, advised you of your Miranda rights, remember that?
Yeah.
Said you understood your rights.
The investigator wants it on record that he allowed Russell to smoke a cigarette, and that he advised Russell of his Miranda rights
Twice.
The investigator begins to quickly recap his previous testimony and what they did on the crime scene visit so he doesn't have an opportunity to retract his prior statements of guilt.
This phone's recorded, it's got a mic, and you turned it off earlier.
Well, I turned it off and on several times.
You really told us that last night is when you and Gavin walked over
Yes.
to Ella's house, and that you met her at Union Park?
Yeah.
Okay, is what you told us.
Yeah.
Is that still true?
No.
Okay.
We could easily interpret Russell's behavior as psychopathic, and that he doesn't display signs of remorse, even occasionally laughing. Based on information from sources and from what Russell has stated about himself, he more likely does not comprehend the true meaning and impact of what he's done.
So why don't we start from the beginning?
Okay.
And just give us you've been very cooperative and truthful. So you're very intelligent. Yeah.
Russell is more likely to respond by continuing to be truthful because he may wish to be perceived as intelligent.
That was part of his problem, is because he can hold an adult conversation and you think, wow, this kid's pretty smart.
Right.
But it's not because he knew what he was talking about, it's because he memorized what he had read.
So we headed over, we waited across the street, down the alley. We were waiting there till she texted saying that he's asleep. So I started wanting to head over, and right when I wanted to head over, she texts. So it's almost like she read my mind. So we headed over. He went through the gate, because we were going to go through.
We talked about he again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Went through her window. I followed shortly after. Kind of nervous about it, but what I do for a living. We got all the bags loaded out, and she said that she's going to grab the keys and pull the car around while Gavin, I say, talks to the guy, but that's far from.
There is widespread belief that individuals on the spectrum cannot distinguish between moral right and wrongness. Contrarily, individuals diagnosed with autism often possess an even greater conceptualization of right and wrong. In Russell's case, he seems to have an extreme idea of what is right in this situation, believing that what happened to Aaron was fully justifiable.
Did you ever come through the window?
No. Okay. No, I only went through the front door.
Afterwards?
Yeah, after the meeting.
Okay.
Just as Gavin told investigators that he hit Aaron instead of killed.
After I entered that.
Russell tells investigators that he only entered the location after the beating versus after the killing or the murder. This, again, is distancing language, essentially psychological avoidance.
So earlier, at this point, what you told us was her dad came in with a gun and threatened him?
That part was not true.
Okay.
I just wanted to make it look like he was a good guy. And he is a good guy, personally.
Who is?
Gavin.
So when you went in, what did you see?
Very scary face.
Mm-hmm. I think what you originally told us, that his body was still twitching when you got there?
Yeah, he was dead. Gavin checked his pulse and everything. He was still moving due to the gases and stuff and the chemical mixture within the body.
Okay.
I went through the front door, went straight to the bathroom.
Okay.
Because I was like,
okay. What we're learning is something that Ellie has been wanting to happen for a while. And that the three of you guys have been having this conversation.
I was not in the planning of killing him.
What he says here contradicts his prior testimony, the evidence, and Gavin's testimony.
We've been talking about like moving her out several weeks, and then the big finale was make it look like he kidnapped her.
He calls the plan to make it look like a kidnapping, the grand finale, once again showing no remorse, almost as if this is a movie or novel plot.
And put him in a car. Gavin would drive over state line to California. I was gonna do,
You guys are gonna tie him in the front seat of the passenger car with him alive and drive him across the
yeah, that was my idea. Killing was not my idea at all.
Did you know going over last night
That Devin was gonna kill him? No.
or assault him?
Well, probably assault, but I didn't expect him actually to kill him. Just like probably a few broken ribs or something.
Was that something that he talked about?
He talked about killing.
Russell was aware that murder was a possibility. Under the law, he would have already been guilty of felony murder, which is when, in the commission of a felony, like aggravated assault, i.e. assault with a weapon here, or burglary, if one defendant kills the victim during the commission of another felony, even if it wasn't planned, all defendants can be charged with the murder.
I tried to talk him out of killing him.
But when they talked about it, what did they propose to do?
Take him over state line, cut the brakes or whatever, make him go into a gas station. And
All kinds of things got talked about?
yeah, but I always pop holes in every system.
Did Ellie ever come out and say he's gonna take a bath and do this tonight?
No, she just said that she...
Gavin says that she handed him the bath.
Yeah.
Go do it. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
What'd she tell you when she came out?
She said that she's gonna go around the block, grab the car, give the signal, and Gavin would go take care of business.
So you knew when you had the car that Gavin's gonna take it?
Well, I didn't know that he was gonna kill me, but just, I thought take care of business as in like hurt the guy.
Okay.
Russell contradicts himself by saying he thought take care of business meant just hurt the father, after he just finished telling the investigator all the ways he shot down the other various methods Gavin and Ellie suggested killing him.
So you have the Samsung phone?
Yes. And the red and black.
The red and black one? And did we find that on you when we...
Yes.
And is that passcoded?
Yes.
What's the passcode in there?
It's a pattern.
Can you draw the pattern for me? So if this is the top of the phone?
Should be easy.
Okay.
Because my new name is Mike Smith.
Oh, I can already see what it is. Do you recall how they talked about that they were going to kill him, when they wanted to kill him? Besides the big... Of all these pages that I wrote down, the majority of this sounds fairly accurate. Yeah. It's just the gun stuff wasn't accurate. Okay.
I just wanted to make it look more helpful on his end.
Consistent with the interrogation up to this point, Russell seems to be prouder that he could help than worried that he did.
You told us several times throughout our conversation that you didn't cause the death.
No, I did not.
Do you think he was awake when he got hit?
Probably just falling asleep. All I heard was, like I said, the thuds and the moaning in pain.
One of Ellen's neighbors had also heard Aaron's moans, likening them to an animal dying. That same neighbor declined to interview, stating, "Hello, Abby. Thank you for asking so kindly, but I don't think I'd like to discuss it for your platform. It was a pretty traumatic experience for me personally, so I think I'll have to pass. Have a great day."
Any other stops after you left Aaron's house before you got to Almond Street? He said he took his gray sweatshirt and put it in a washer over a friend's house after you guys left, before you go to Almond. Do you remember that?
No, I was probably still terrified that there was a dead body in the front right behind me.
Okay.
Russell does not necessarily deserve credit, but take note that this is the first time any one of the individuals involved in this crime expressed discomfort with the fact that Aaron's body was in the trunk of the car while they ran errands.
One of the things that Ellie is telling another detective is that it actively got talked about as far as planned out, different things got talked about.
Yeah, we talked about it, but never really, I wasn't really going to do anything. Kind of like I could say I'm going to punch a cop, but that doesn't mean I'm going to actually do it.
Russell displays his disdain for authority when he makes an analogy involving punching a cop, which may be a subtle way to threaten the investigator. It also shows his lack of intimidation for their authority and/or lack of social or situational comprehension.
Well, I was agreeing to a degree, but not 100% agree.
Do you think Ellie knew that it wasn't 100%?
I'm not sure what goes through women's heads. If men knew, we'd be able to understand women and not have arguments with their wives. She didn't say anything about him killing her. She just said, take care of business.
Did she say take him out?
Probably, it was a lot of things going on last night, and I'm still terrified that there was a dead body.
Again, Russell is the only member of the trio who expresses shock at the sight and/or presence of a dead body. But what he says next is particularly unsettling.
Did you send anybody text messages? So I believe what we just did?
No.
Do you believe I'm right in the car with the dead body?
No, I'm not. I might be blonde, but I'm not stupid. I'm only part blonde.
Ever thinking about trying to see
if I could be Mr. Popular because I have a dead body behind me? No.
Or if Aaron needed help? Were you pretty convinced he was dead?
Yeah.
You told us that you were high-functioning autistic?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you know the difference between right and wrong?
Sometimes.
Would it be wrong to kill someone?
The investigator brings up Russell's autism and directly asks him questions that a defendant would be asked to see if that defendant is mentally fit to stand trial. Doing this helps defeat a possible insanity defense or mental incapacity defense he may try to use later because of his autism diagnosis. Consider that mental illness and its role in influencing criminality is highly complex. A mental health professional would spend several hours over multiple sessions determining this. This is only a starting place.
Well, see, here's another trick with that. What's to say that it's wrong to kill someone in self-defense?
Okay, but what if
killing is killing? So
what if this isn't self-defense?
Self-defense would be if her dad came at him.
Right, and there's no evidence
versus him getting mad that her father, Aaron, tried to sleep with his daughter.
Okay. Do you think it would be wrong to kill somebody that's sleeping with their daughter?
It's not lawful for fathers to do that with their kids.
Lawful understanding differs from moral understanding. Russell is either aware of what the investigator is attempting to do or exhibiting signs of genuine confusion surrounding morality.
Would you consider yourself an intelligent person?
To some degree.
What is your diagnosis?
Bipolar, which I keep down with cigarettes.
Okay.
Cigarettes do not keep down bipolar disorder. If anything, nicotine ingestion increases the likelihood of the onset of depressive and manic episodes.
Are you just bipolar?
Yeah.
Any schizophrenia?
No.
The investigator may ask this because he also believes that Russell exhibits delusions and, potentially, hallucinations. Hallucinations and delusions, as stated previously, are symptoms of psychosis not typically associated with bipolar disorder and more typically associated with psychotic disorders like schizophrenia. Fewer people know that bipolar disorder can occur with psychotic features. This is more likely what Russell is experiencing.
You talked about punching a cop in the face. Do you know it's wrong to punch a cop in the face?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, I know if
it's wrong to kill somebody.
Yes, depending on the situation.
So was it talked about prior to going over there, or while you were over there, that Gavin was going to assault, that Gavin was going to assault the dad?
He said that he didn't like it, and he was not happy with the text either.
Were you upset about that?
Being a protector of emos, yes.
Okay.
And if anyone tried to do that to my daughter, I'd probably grab a shotgun too, because no one harms my family like that.
How did the assault, how was that supposed to happen?
We were supposed to try and find chloroform and knock him out, but we couldn't find any chloroform because it's not online anymore. Gavin told me that he knew some karate. I said, well, is there any pressure points that would not kill him? He said there were, and that they would try to, but I guess they didn't want to.
Is the reason that you brought the machete was kind of a backup?
Yeah, just a backup if he was to try and come at one of us. But I wasn't going to go like, I'm going to kill you. No. It's more like, stay back or I will. But it was never needed. So.
If Gavin would have said, come on in through the window, and Gavin's got a bat, and Gavin says to you, I'm gonna take this patched over his head.
Hypothetically,
What would you have done?
I would have tried to convince him only to break Aaron's rib cage, but not kill him.
Okay.
Just knock him out, or like one hit, knock him out.
Would you then continue on with trying to convince him to, once he's knocked out, put him in the car and take him to California?
Yeah.
Russell doesn't skip a beat before answering that he would have taken Aaron to California after knocking him out. He is oblivious that guilt would be an appropriate emotional response.
Because that's the other part of the plan, right?
That was one of the plans, yes.
What's the other plan?
My plan was to tie him in the woods, have a stern talking to him, like, you do not do that to your family. And hopefully that would scare him, and me and Gavin and Ellie would drive off and leave him there, and he could
go to California or somewhere else?
Probably just back to the house and wait till my grandma gave me the RV, and then we were going to take my RV. That was the ultimate plan.
Gavin would later claim that Russell's firm talking to Aaron plan was, in reality, a tie him to a tree and murder him plan. Note Gavin's nonverbal indicators throughout this portion of the interrogation. He appears the most distressed in relation to the crime. This is logical, both in that the repercussions are the most severe, and what he did was the most severe.
Whose idea was it to cause harm to everyone? Who first brought it up? Ellie brought it up? Who's the one who first brought it up? You'll have to speak up a little bit, I can't hear.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. She was the one who first was like, I want my dad dead. RJ was wanting to knock him out, and then go take him out somewhere, and then kill him.
RJ was?
That was what he was.
Did RJ ever talk about tying him up to a tree and having a stern talk with him?
He didn't tell me about that, no.
How would your plan be to take him out and kill him?
So what my plan would have been was, like, if we got like close or whatever, I would have gone in, I would have, like, knocked everybody out with it or whatever.
Knocked everybody out, dude.
Well, she had sisters, or his girlfriend, whoever was in the house.
Your plan was to use working on all the kids and the girlfriend and him?
Yeah.
Even the investigator cannot hold back a shocked and disgusted facial expression. Investigators are human, and they have limits.
So is Ellie kind of responsible for facilitating this bat thing?
Yes.
But where we talk about getting a gun and shooting?
That's what RJ was going to do the entire time, and I was like, you're going to have to walk past him to get to the guns, and he's probably going to wake up before then.
Do you know the difference between right and wrong?
Yeah.
You do? Have you ever been diagnosed with any kind of mental disorders?
ADHD.
According to family, Gavin was also diagnosed with autism.
He's such a bitch. He's always been very interested in children since he's little.
Everything we've mentioned about Russell also holds the potential to apply in some capacity to Gavin. He could struggle to realize the true impact of what he's done, although it seems clear to him that the outcome is not good at this point in the interrogation. A family member we interviewed further mentioned that not everything registers for him.
When did you get diagnosed with ADHD?
When I was like 7, and it hasn't changed. I mean, I've been off medication for it since I was 17.
You were using medication until you were 17?
His struggle with these reported disorders could have largely influenced the execution of this crime. An anonymous acquaintance who spoke with us shared that he had noticed Gavin changing roughly around the time Gavin states he stopped taking his ADHD medication.
Oh, he changed. You can just tell by looking at him. He didn't have the same confidence he used to have. He just looked like he didn't sleep well. His hair became greasy. He just wasn't himself.
Bottom line, getting off medication and or stopping therapy when those interventions are needed has dire consequences for those and others who know those who struggle with mental illness.
And then I was like, I don't want medication anymore.
Did you need it?
I didn't feel like I needed it, no. And I've been I messed up big time, but I know.
You guys going over there and getting their bags, when did it start passing through your mind that you're going to take them out? Well, let me ask you this.
I was just so angry. I didn't want to kill him.
Right, I understand that.
Note how he bends his head down submissively, hunches his shoulders, and raises his vocal pitch. Gavin seems, or is attempting to seem, honest and simultaneously respectful of law enforcement in the room.
But when she hands you the bat, did you feel like, oh, this is going to go down, I'm going to go assault?
I was thinking, is this really happening? I was about to go kill someone. And I stopped and I kind of sat there frozen. I didn't know what to do.
Even though this was calculated, Gavin could have been genuinely afraid in this moment. Fear of what Aaron might do to him should Aaron have woken up may have pushed Gavin to do something that he ultimately would not have followed through with. We mentioned the fight or flight response previously, and what Gavin relays to investigators is that he froze. Individuals may also freeze as part of the fight or flight response. In Gavin's case, freeze may have turned to fight once he was closer in proximity to Aaron.
There we go. So what's your mark then? You made the third quarter of your 12th grade year. What happened?
I just want to get done with school because a lot of people were giving me all sorts of shit about assault. There were rumors going around. I mean, I hadn't done anything to anybody. It was a lot of pressure, so I just wanted to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew killing myself wasn't the answer, because that would just be pure stupidity.
Right.
So, and I'm guessing I'm not going home.
I would guess that's probably correct.
And I get paid tomorrow.
Okay.
Murder is an automatic life sentence, isn't it?
When people ask me questions like that, it's not just a simple, easy answer to say yes. I mean, I think there's a lot of different variables to it.
Is Ellie going home?
She's not. She's still talking to me.
Am I allowed to talk to her at all?
Probably not.
Gavin appears to genuinely care for Ellen. Interestingly, in speaking to sources, we found that Gavin had cheated on Ellen. I mean, I know this might be TMI, but I actually, hooked up with him. Everything was seemingly normal. We flirted a lot back then and talked about the possibility of a relationship. I did find out after hooking up with him that he was dating that other girl, so we pretty much just stopped talking due to that. He was really nice at the time. It could likewise have something to do with his ADHD diagnosis. Untreated, ADHD can increase the risk of promiscuity and infidelity. This is, again, largely due to issues of impulse control, excess energy, poor coping mechanisms, and poor emotion regulation.
Have you used any drugs today or drank at all today?
In my vape.
Do you use any drugs?
I do smoke.
Did you have a clear mind when this happened? Have you been drinking or using drugs when this happened?
Many of Gavin's old friends mentioned that he always had weed.
He always had weed. Yeah, one of the last things he messaged me was, so skin out. Want to come over and smoke.
He further elaborated that Gavin may not have responded the best to the drug and made some accurate and relevant points at potential negative outcomes of using it.
He was so high, he couldn't walk. We found a shopping cart on the side of the road. He hopped in it and forgot all of his stuff on the side of the road, right? So I picked it up for him. I was carrying his board and his backpack, and he was just sitting in this shopping cart I'm thinking it made him think weird. So some people just can't handle it. I've heard that some mental disorders can be amplified when you smoke weed.
I just know I just seriously myself over with this. From the beginning, I had a bad feeling about all this, and I was I knew I should have gotten involved. I should have. We've been dating for a long time. We've known each other for a while. It's hard.
Gavin is regretful, but not for taking Aaron's life. He implies here that he was doing this all because Ellen wanted him to. Although his family reported that Ellen was the prime culprit in manipulating Gavin, there are others who disagree.
I can't help but blame Gavin for a lot of it.
Do you think that he was the mastermind if he had put his foot down?
I guarantee I would have been like, okay, maybe we shouldn't tell my dad.
Oh, by the way, I have a bad feeling about all this. Wait, Jim's going to explain some things to you.
Bags, evidence.
Probably handcuffs are going to be coming next for all three of us because what we did, I didn't beat the crap out of them.
You told me that you spent a lot of time in watching and doing detective work stuff. So
yeah,
this is a search warrant. Okay.
Of Gavin's property.
No, this is for your body. I'm just gonna explain that to you. Because part of what we're gonna collect,
I had nothing on me except for my clothes.
okay, Mike, part of what we're gonna collect is DNA samples. And that's,
Here we see a more blatant display of Russell's anti-authoritarian attitude.
Search warrant can be ate just like my homework by my dog, which I never had.
So Mike, let me explain something. Because the judge signs a search warrant saying that we're gonna collect.
Oh, so a judge?
Judge signed it, yeah.
Well, the judge said that.
So let me read this to you, okay? It's long. In the Circuit Court of the State of Oregon for the County of Jackson, search warrant, you are hereby commanded to search
Commanded.
and Russell Pierce Jones, date of birth 7/11/95, for a
Not 7-11. It's 7-1.
7/1/95. Okay. Okay.
You're gonna have to tie me down or straight jacket to get my evidence.
Okay, and that may happen. Okay, you've been very
Of course,
quiet.
I tend to talk out my head. Just try not to stick your finger in my mouth. I was protecting a kid once, and she had 4 guys hold my arms and legs down, and so she thought I was safe enough to put her hand close to my mouth. Let's just say she needed rabies shots after I bit her.
Don't find me, please. When's the last time you slept?
3 days ago.
Individuals who have bipolar disorder struggle to sleep during periods of mania. This is highly suggestive that Russell is experiencing a manic episode, which tracks with the fact that he is also experiencing delusions.
Well, I stand right there with your back against that wall so I can take some pictures of it.
Hey, try not to get my face.
I'll get your good side, okay? Promise. Come on. I'll get your good side. Back against the wall, back against the wall, basement. Arms on all the time. Arms on your side. Turn face out with me. You don't have to only do that. Okay. Turn face.
I just feel like I'm like at school with the photos.
Mike, I call you.
Right. I always say,
Don't face me and hold your hands out in front of you.
I always say 6, but I'm actually 5'9" probably.
Can you hold them up and down a little bit?
Like Hitler or zombie or something like that.
So. Go on over for me. Bring it down a little bit. Perfect, right there, Mike. Face me. Turn around for me, face the wall.
Don't ask me to take off my pants. I have no underwear on.
Okay, turn around, face the wall for me. What do you do with your underwear?
And tossed it. I covered it with the rock paper towels, so.
He did not have the skills really to be on his own, and this was kind of just the final situation for him. I mean, we don't know honestly that he'll even make it out of prison. I don't know. I mean, prison sounds like a pretty rough place, so.
So he doesn't get the severity of what Gavin did. He still wants to help her. I go, she lied to you about all this abuse and all that. It was all lies. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I still would like to help her if I could. Oh my goodness. That's how he is. I kid you not.
So what's the situation with Ellie? Will she be going home, or what's her case?
I don't know, maybe they did plan something, because I wasn't with them all of this weekend. Yeah. They had plenty of an opportunity to do that.
Ellen has transitioned to using they. It appears now that Ellen is moving her focus to protecting herself over Gavin.
I'm going to figure out if there's any new stuff and see if we could talk about it. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't like being alone.
You don't?
No, I don't.
If I find somebody to come hang out with you that's not me, is that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Fear of being alone occurs alongside feelings of abandonment. In intimate relationships, individuals prone to feelings of abandonment may rely too heavily on their partners. Should their partners seek to end the relationship or spend more time with others, for example, these individuals may respond in extreme ways, threatening suicide or providing their partners with ultimatums, such as "stay with me or else." Another common extreme attempt to avoid abandonment present among women who suffer from this fear is lying about being pregnant. This maladaptive attachment may develop in those suffering from various mental illness. Maladaptive attachment in adulthood also often develops when individuals possess an anxious attachment style, which is characterized by a longing for closeness, and as Ellen mentions, she has fear of being alone.
Can I hug you? No. What's wrong, kiddo? Hey, need a hug. Why? Because I'm able to forgot about, told somebody about the abuse that I was going through. Okay. We're gonna hold off just a little bit, okay? I can do here with you though. How long have your parents been having problems? They've been divorced since starting middle school, which was 4 years ago now. Okay.
Divorces that are not amicable cause great distress among children and may lead to negative externalizing behavior, otherwise referred to as acting out. In women and girls, it may more commonly lead to internalizing issues, such as increased anxiety and shame. Turbulent divorces may also lead to issues of attachment.
Like the job. I'm also a musician. I don't think I'll ever be able to play guitar again. Since my dad was the one that taught me how. He used to be so nice. I don't know what changed. I'm sorry that I'm crying. I shouldn't be crying.
This is what seems to be Ellen's first display of genuine remorse and sadness over the loss of her father.
I feel like I should say something, but I don't want to draw away from what's going on right now. I know minors that have marijuana in their possession and they regularly smoke. Oh, that's not good. So I thought since I'm here, I'd make a report about it. Okay.
It's interesting that Ellen calls out minors for smoking when she was known to have smoked herself.
I've never had any drugs or alcohol that I know of, unless my dad did something when he likes to drink. That's what he does with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend just didn't do what he wanted. And I have suspicions that he's done that to me in the past. Talk to me about how Gavin is, what's he like? He's protective. Okay. So when you had that conversation with him on Saturday, what was his reaction? He just tried to make me feel better. He told me it's not my fault that he's doing these things. Mm-hmm. And he said that he wanted to punch him in the face.
Ellen claims Gavin had violent intentions towards her father, but this didn't allegedly involve murder or great bodily harm. From this point forward, Ellen mostly draws with little interaction between her and the second investigator. A few minutes later, she restarts the conversation with small talk. Ellen seems comfortable with the silence, but the second investigator is giving Ellen a break for a few minutes. This type of mental reset can let new thoughts surface. Then, when questioning restarts, new information may be shared.
How long have you been a vegetarian? Since I was about 5. Oh, okay. Is anyone else in your family vegetarian? No. They all make fun of me for the way I eat. That's not very nice. Very hurtful. Because your family is supposed to be the one that loves and accepts you. I've always been the black sheep.
The therapist at South Medford High School said that Ellen only mentioned that she was depressed, that there were more rules in her household than she would have liked, and that she was in a relationship with Gavin. Ellen seems to have a lot more to say right now than the therapist shared she did at the time they spoke. And this was within an approximate 2-month time frame. It's worth noting that this is a dramatic shift, and we can only speculate what it might mean.
So she came in on her own, and I asked her how her summer went, and she said things had been going really well. Since August, she'd been feeling some more depression coming on, and so we talked about that. As a therapist, I kind of usually jump into problem solving. She seemed to me to be a little bit resistant and said she just needed to vent. And so I said, of course, you need to vent.
When therapists jump into solving problems, it can make clients feel as though they are not being heard. Mental health professionals are typically trained not to do this until they are well into the therapeutic relationship, after rapport has been established. So there's a question as to why this therapist jumped into problem solving, as she states here.
And I really like to help people to solve their problems. That's kind of how we ended our conversation, which was I'll check in with you in a few weeks and see how things are going.
This applies to interrogation techniques as well. Suspects respond more positively when they feel the investigator is listening, understanding, and empathizing with them. That is why they learn how to effectively employ active listening skills as part of their training. The second investigator immediately starts reviewing her text messages. This is probably message passing to help her direct further questioning while Ellen eats her food.
I don't really know how I feel right now. I just kind of feel empty. My whole life is like a bottomless pit. I never really fulfilled.
Feelings of emptiness. This is an additional symptom of mental illness common to disorders we have mentioned previously. We can by no means unequivocally assert that Ellen suffers from mental illness, but from what we've observed and from accounts of old friends, we can reasonably question whether some level of psychopathology is present. Alternatively, it's possible remorse is catching up to her.
Okay. Yeah. Gavin is being 100% honest right now, and you are not.
I told you everything.
So, we need to talk about the conversation that you and Gavin have had regarding your dad.
That I had angered feelings towards him.
And?
Classic Reed technique starts here with maximization. She told Ellen she would no longer put up with her lies earlier in the interrogation, but she's more blatantly authoritative and stern with Ellen here. Attempts at building rapport have failed, so it seems as though the investigative team has decided that Detective Smith should take a different approach.
And what?
They came over this morning, about 2:30. Gavin was in your room, and your dad woke up. Is that right or wrong? Did you tell me that? You told me your dad woke up. Okay. Well, I missed that part.
Even when backed into a corner without a way out, Ellen clings to her lies.
I told you that my dad woke up.
Detective Smith is attempting to break through Ellen's resistance. She needs Ellen to admit to lying.
So you have told me this whole time Gavin never came in your house?
No, I've never said that he didn't go in my house.
So Gavin was in the house. And tell me about the conversation that you and Gavin had when your dad went back to sleep. Were you saying things like, I want him dead? I don't want him around anymore?
I don't want to be around my dad anymore.
I want him out
of my life.
Okay. Well, when you tell Gavin, I want him dead, those are pretty specific words.
I said he's dead to me.
Although it takes a second for her to recast her statement in more innocent tones, she demonstrates a high degree of mental acuity and agility with the ongoing word games.
You kind of have been playing games with me. You know darn good well what was going to happen today. What happened?
Where would you like me to start?
I want you to start with the truth.
Sorry, excuse me.
What kind of conversations have you and Gavin had about this? What words were you using?
The nature of the conversation will determine and help prove the existence of a conspiracy. For conspiracy, there must be an agreement among participants, and this will be crucial to proving this charge.
I'm using emotional words.
Such as?
I hate the way I'm being treated. Very anger-ridden words.
Aside from you telling Gavin you want your dad dead, he said you're actually the one that got the keys out of the living room. Is there a reason you're lying about so much?
No.
Ellen does not deny any of Detective Smith's accusations. This is the beginning of the truth.
Where did the keys come from?
The living room.
Who got the keys?
I did.
Why did you get the keys?
To pull the car around.
Why are you lying to me? Why are you putting all this on Mike?
Because it was his original plan to take out my father.
Gavin is not saying that. In fact, he used, I believe, those exact same words. Taken out. From you.
My original plan was to run away, and then Mike got involved. About the possibility of doing that.
Of doing what?
Taking out my son.
And what does that mean to you?
So, yeah.
Then what?
And then we started talking more about it.
What were you texting Mike?
Essentially what you just said.
No, I want to hear from you.
It's self-incrimination time. And this is why the Miranda rights state anything you say can and will be used against you.
About to have him get drunk, and then he would come in and take him out.
And at what point did Gavin get involved?
I kind of forced Gavin into this.
Mm-hmm.
We all agree that Ellie was 100% that fault.
Maybe Ellie had him wrapped around his finger and kind of manipulated him in a way to do it.
Any man, I think, is capable of extreme violence if it's for the sake of someone they love.
Tell me how you forced Gavin into this.
I pressured him. He said, "Can you help us out?" He said, "I don't know, I really don't want to get involved with that," but I kept. Mike started being more adamant about it too.
I want to hear your part, because I feel like you're really minimizing your part in this, Ellie.
He was originally going to help us run away, but only Gavin was talking to him about it. And then I texted him about it, and he brought up this whole thing about taking out my dad.
And you thought that was a good idea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I kind of denied it at first, but he kept saying, "Let's do it," so I agreed, and we started planning.
And then what happened?
And then we did it.
So, did you check to see if your dad was asleep?
Mm-hmm.
And was he?
Yes, he was.
What's the very next thing that happened?
Then Gavin comes in.
And what do you say to Gavin?
He said, "I'm ready when you are."
And what did you mean by that?
When you do this, we're in it together.
What did you mean when you said, "when you do this"?
Count my dad.
Okay. So what conversations were you guys having leading up to that point?
About how we were in love, we would get married, teenage planning a wedding, fantasizing about it.
What kind of life you guys are going to have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What conversations do you and Gavin have about looking for the bath?
Well, I was angry because I had seen it there earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I know it's there, and if it's there, I'm going to be really upset."
And so then you go look for the bat and you find it by the door. And what's your dad doing at that point?
He's asleep.
Can you actually see him?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
I thought I need to get the bat and I need to get out.
Okay. So then what's the very next thing that happens?
Then he tries, but he hit something in the hallway, so we ran back in the room, and that's when I pretended to be in the bathroom.
Okay. So then do you guys kind of regroup and have a conversation about what to do next?
Yeah, we were going to wait for him to fall asleep, and I would be out getting the car while he did it, and he would unlock the front door and have RJ help him drag the body out into the trunk.
Did you help at all?
No. I did help try to clean up a little bit in the inside though.
What did you do?
I got a towel and I kind of soaked up the big puddle of blood by the door.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, what is the first thing somebody says when you get in the car?
Can't believe we actually did that.
Who said that?
Mike.
Okay.
And then I said the same thing.
How'd you guys feel?
We were all kind of on an adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen's word choice of adrenaline rush, usually used when describing positive experiences, as opposed to something more like shocked or horrified, is telling.
You had adrenaline rush?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how were you showing that?
I was actually pretty calm, but I felt pretty, kind of explosive inside.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen has been guarded, lying throughout the interrogation. We might expect that she would, in the very least, attempt to feign sadness or distress. The way she describes how she feels here, explosive inside, comes off as though this was a thrilling experience for her.
And again, I mean, it's kind of not the biggest deal in the world, but Gavin is saying that you really threw that bat. Like, you threw that hard. Okay. Thank you for being honest. What did you kick with your leg?
I didn't kick anything with my leg.
Okay.
It's just weird tan lines.
Okay. Thank you for being honest with me.
Detective Smith continues thanking Ellen for being honest. This is reinforcing the bond between them in order to keep the truth coming.
Why did you talk to your sisters about how I said I'd be leaving and I would come back to see them?
Okay. I mean, how does that make you feel having that conversation with your two little sisters?
It hurt to leave them, but I felt like I was going to a better place.
Did they hear anything?
Probably.
What did you guys think was going to happen?
We thought that if we were alone, we just kept ourselves locked in the house, we wouldn't be found out, since nobody knew where we lived.
And so we were
Gavin lived.
Hi. Hi. Oh, so do we leave you? Perfect. This is your guys' round. She'll take care of you for just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. You sure you're okay? You have enough to eat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What'd you have?
Some fries, but then I got nauseous. I only eat about 20 types of food.
Okay. So, 20 things. That's not a ton. Name some of them. French fries?
Yeah, French fries, half ramen, quesadillas, pancakes, waffles.
Hi. Hi. You're out. Okay? And Detective Smith will be right back in. So, let's see. What grade are you in school?
Sophomore.
Sophomore.
Detective Smith begins to ask the same questions that she did at the beginning of the interrogation. Ellen answers truthfully this time.
Oh, goodness.
I'm a little tiny, like microscopic sponge right here, and it's been bugging me.
Oh, okay.
I can't get it out.
Where do you think that came from?
Dirt somewhere.
Yeah.
So, if and when this goes to court, will it be tried as an adult or a minor?
No, that is actually not a decision I make.
I would like to be tried as an adult.
You would? Tell me about why you'd like to be tried as an adult.
Because this is what I've done, and I need to step up and take responsibility for what I've done.
Okay.
It's unclear where this self-deprecation comes from, if it's genuine or concocted for purposes of seeming remorseful.
Are you and Gavin like boyfriend girlfriend now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys just have like a relationship too?
No, he's a legal adult, and I'm a minor.
Okay.
He would get into trouble.
Okay.
Even aware of the consequences and aware that Gavin has told everything to investigators, Ellen attempts to protect him.
Are you having sex with anybody?
No.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't really know what my dad's done to me.
Well, you would know that. One of the things I heard was that when you guys went to Walmart, you actually bought a pregnancy test.
I had concerns.
But
I had concerns.
Like Gavin's baby. Gavin thinks it's his baby.
When did that happen? Will I get to see Gavin again? If I do have a kid, then I want him to be involved. I feel like they should have the right to that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I probably don't have the answer to that right now.
That's okay. It doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah. What do your sisters like to do?
Play with dolls.
Yeah. Are their mom and dad the same as yours?
Yeah, but I have some suspicions that the youngest child isn't really my dad.
Hmm.
You know this whole thing about blood types and how they work, how for an O to be born, both parents have to be O's because they're recessive.
Okay.
My dad is a B.
So what's that mean? It's not your dad?
That's what I thought. What's gonna happen to all the food that we bought?
This is an odd question. While Ellen seems to understand the gravity of her situation, it's as if she's trying to distract herself from thinking about her predicament.
How do you feel about what happened to your dad today?
I feel bad.
Do you, perform for choir and go places?
Yeah, I got a solo last year. It's the scariest experience of my life.
I bet it was.
No one came to my concert. Nobody comes to my concerts in my family.
Yeah. Did your dad work?
No, he just chooses not to come because he doesn't really care.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder what would have been different if you would have told somebody.
Me too.
Anything?
Water.
Ellen is taken from the interrogation room in handcuffs. We might be left with questions as to whether she suffered from something that could have influenced the behavior that led to her father's murder, or whether the abuse she described truly occurred. Ellen stood up in front of the courtroom at her sentencing hearing and claimed that she copes with post-traumatic stress disorder resulting from the abuse she experienced, suffering from horrendous flashbacks. She had no words of remorse for conspiring to murder Aaron. Rather, she shared that she had accepted Jesus Christ as her Savior. In addition to thanking her legal team and youth ministry, she looked across the courtroom at her mother and grandmother and thanked them for their support through tears before reading the quote, "Even when the world throws its worst and turns its back, there is still always hope." In 2019, Ellen Fryer was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and conspiracy to commit a Class A felony and sentenced to 25 years in prison, spending 10 of those years in a juvenile correctional facility. Russell was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and attempt to commit a Class A felony. He was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. Gavin was convicted of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and tampering with physical evidence, and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years.